Bitcoin, and the man asks if that's all, and Prota says yes. Then, he remarks that Prota is truly incredible, wondering what made him invest 60 billion in Bitcoin, saying that he doesn't think he could have done it. And Sancho says that, it would seem, he's very lucky, but Prota says it wasn't luck at all. He says he remembers the news saying that he said he saw the lottery numbers in a dream, saying it wasn't luck, so this could be a good thing for him. But Prota says he didn't achieve it because of a dream, and none of them understand. But the Oder Ba. Prota doesn't answer how he managed it, and thinks that this is the only thing he can do to gain Guanglok's acceptance and get him to come over to his side, and he says this is the first time he reveals this to others, mentioning he has the rune of future vision, and the other person is even more surprised. And Prota says it's a rune that allows him to see a few years into the future. In other words, he is a prophet who can see the future, and they are both shocked to hear this. Ma questions Sancho about what he just heard, challenging the boy's claim that he is a prophet, and what kind of nonsense he is spouting. Then, Ma questions if he is being serious, and Prota asks why he would lie to him. Ma then states that the fact that he won the lottery was because he predicts the future using the future vision rune. Prota confirms that this is accurate and also the reason behind investing in Bitcoin to increase his fortune. And thanks to being able to see the future, he was able to invest all his money in it. So, Ma asks if it's not too much trouble, if he can prove it to him, because if he can prove what, she celebrates his first place finish, knowing everyone will recognize his talent. The angel is flattered that the #1 ranked player from all regions is in her area. Will happen in a few moments, he will believe him. But Prota thinks that since he can read his thoughts, predicting his next action isn't a problem. However, just to be sure, it would be good to set a restriction on his ability. Then the protagonist apologizes, explaining that it's not an ability he can use freely, as it activates unexpectedly without a specific trigger. And so, Ma thinks it's quite understandable for a rune that can see the future to have such a restriction. But then he notices something, wondering about the fact that he invested 280 billion in his company and that it will grow. The protagonist confirms, saying yes, because he knew that the Celestial Demon Consultancy would grow exponentially in the future, so he invested in it. Then he asks how significant this growth will be. He replies that it will be listed on COSP in half a year without much difficulty, and Ma is overjoyed, asking how great this will be if it's true, saying that not only will he be recognized by his father, but he will also be able to obtain the position of director. But at that moment, he realizes he got too carried away, because he was smiling, with information that he can't be sure is real, which is overwhelming. And Prota says that, in order to succeed, they need to completely change their business model. And Sancho asks about this, calling it a meaningless request, and questions if he's asking them to change their entire business to that extent, adding that it would be easier to ask them to change the company's name. But, then, Ma asks Sancho to stop, but Prota replies that, since the type of business will change, the name will also naturally need to change, and Sancho can't believe it, asking if the Prota is serious, and then questions if he thinks he's joking, and since they are both players, they should know that revealing your rune to others is a very big loss. Then, she asks him to answer a question, and he tells her to ask whatever she wants. So, she inquires about how strong he is, and if he obtained any special runes or anything like that. Big. And they start to become serious. And Prota says that he has taken this into consideration and still decided to reveal his rune to them, as a major investor and as a partner. Businesses they will be working with in the future, and he wants to help the company grow. If not for that, why else would he have invested 280 billion there? And for the sake of the company's success, he needs to work with him. Then, Sancho talks to Ma, asking if he isn't trusting that man's word too much. Ma thinks for a moment, and the protagonist says that it seems like they don't trust his skill, and Sancho says that, honestly, he doesn't. Then, the protagonist talks to the sector head, asking if she has ever thought about the reason he moved to that apartment behind that cover, asking if she isn't just going to say it's a coincidence, and just like that he notices something. So he asks about it, and Ma asks what he's talking about regarding the cover, asking Sancho what that means. He says it's just that, around 2 months ago, Ron moved into the floor below the actress's penthouse, and he confirms that it was a few days after he obtained the rune of future vision. And so Sancho asks why he is only finding out about this now. He says he didn't know it would be relevant until today. Then he thinks that if it happened in January, it was before, even before he invested in Bitcoin. And he even moved to the neighborhood of someone related to the company he planned to invest in the future, thinking that this is impossible, unless he is able to see the future. But then he thinks of something, saying that he might just be someone who knows that he is Seorim's sponsor. And the protagonist is listening to all of his thoughts, thinking that this is not enough. The protagonist says that, apparently, he still doesn't believe him, asking, "How about this? Because that hotel they are in is his." Hearing these questions, he realizes she can't see his status window. She tries to cover it up, saying that, as an angel, she should naturally be able to see it. Property, asking if he isn't President Maglock, and says that he is the eldest son of the group, and the Celestial Demon's consultation is also a secret business created to receive validation of your father. But then Anne gets angry, asking who sent him to obtain information that he couldn't possibly know unless they were close to him. This seems impossible. However, Ma asks to calm down. So, he apologizes, and Ma says that everything he said is partly correct, but not entirely. It's hard to believe he figured this out just by looking into the future, and as the head of the sector said, any of these acquaintances know about this. And to be honest, he has his suspicions about him, and he could be someone sent by another person to trick him into falling into a trap. He questions whether he is suggesting that he trust what he said and change his business, claiming that he knows the answer. Even though he doesn't explicitly say it, because it all seems so senseless, he also decides to believe it, that the rune of future vision might exist. After all, Ken wouldn't want to disbelieve in it, especially if it could help his company grow. However, what he's telling him is difficult to believe. Thanks him for investing in his company, but he will need to hold a meeting with all the investors to present this proposal, and convincing them will be his job. He asks apologies for being unable to help him with this, and since they're finished, he's going to leave first. But Prota asks him to wait and inquires if there is anything else he wishes to say. Prota then, he questions if it's really the only way, and states that, if that's the case, he will give him information about the fourth round. He asks if he also possesses information about Prota, and mentions he saw this using the rune of future vision, and is aware of the tragedy that will occur, and this information should be sufficient to prove his ability. And, after Prota leaves, Iran apologizes for loving his stats. She claims she was just testing him, but he finds it laughable because she was blatantly lying. Then, he tells her to grant his wish, and explains, saying that he was overcome by his emotions and raised his voice. But he says it's all right, because he did it out of concern for him. But the head of the sector says that, since he has just remembered, he wants to ask you something, so he tells him to feel free to speak. He says that it's really suspicious that Mr. Rio is able to see the future, but if he had a skill like that, he could keep quiet and live comfortably on his own. So why is he trying to help them? And Map H, didn't he say he wanted to grow together with your company? Enough money so that he no longer needs to work for the rest of his life. But Ma says that it may not be enough for him, since human greed is infinite. But then H says that, even so, it is very dangerous, as the question about the existence of this rune still remains, and Mar says he agrees with that. But if he really is a prophet capable of seeing the future, they need. And it looks like he wants to make even more money. But then, Anne asks if there's really any reason for him to want that, since he possesses 280 billion won, which is already an incredible amount of money. Having him on his side, urging him to think it over, since it would be beneficial if they always had information about the upcoming rounds and could prepare accordingly. Not only that, but the company would also grow in the process. But then he mentions that they don't know if he's a prophet or not, but regarding that, they just need to wait and see, asking if he agrees. As the protagonist departs, he says that once the fourth round concludes, Mata will undoubtedly believe that he is a prophet. However, he didn't disclose information such as the secret missions or how to reach the higher ranks. Furthermore, he mentioned that the fourth round won't be about monsters. In fact, a massacre among players is going to occur. He can't afford to lower his guard at any moment, that the ranking reward isn't complete. Seeing this audacity, she's incredulous at what she's hearing, and he says he was expecting a better reward. Then, she tells him, he says that this should be sufficient to prove that he is a prophet, and then their attitude towards him will shift, and they will treat him well and try to protect him, given that he is a prophet. And it's always better to have a prophet on your side than on someone else's. But now that he's taken on the role of prophet, he needs to stick with it moving forward. You probably think he'll contact someone else first. Then, a while later, Julie is rushing, worried about being late, and hoping the light changes quickly. And so, she's surprised to see a beautiful car parked on the side of the street. Seeing that Lamborghini blocking the front of the store, she wonders what kind of idiot would do that. And the idiot is none other than the protagonist, who is waiting for her. She's extremely surprised and runs to the car, asking if it's his. He says yes, apologizing for parking in front of the store, and tells her to get in, because he's going to take her for a drive, and she doesn't question it much. Getting into the car, and they quickly drive off. She mentions that it's her first time riding in a car like this, and he asks if she's serious, saying that today is also her first time, and that she hasn't been here long. So, she asks how much it cost, and he says it wasn't much, about 900 million WS, which greatly surprises her, asking, "What do you mean, not much? You could build several convenience stores with that kind of money." He replies that, compared to how much he won in the lottery, it really isn't a lot. She remembers that, because it's true that he won around 60 billion ONS, and it seems like they're living in completely different worlds, leading her to wonder if this isn't some kind of date, thinking that she's incredibly embarrassed. But then he says that he has something he needs to confess, and the girl almost has a fit when she hears this, asking him what, repeating what she said. And Ryu promptly repeats his request, asking her to give him a better reward. Then, she states that she was already eager to continue accompanying him, since he wants to confess. And he says it's nothing weird, telling her not to get the wrong idea. And she says that it's okay, because she just wants to crawl into a hole after asking such a pointless question. What about the confession? And he asks if she remembers saying she saw the lottery numbers, and the girl believes him. He then says, that was a lie. And she asks, what is this? And he replies that it wasn't. It was through a dream. He obtained the information from the Rune of Future Vision, and the Rune of Future Vision, as the name suggests, allows him to see the future, and perhaps that is why his class is Prophet. And the girl is surprised, as it is a unique class. He says he feels bad about lying several times in a row, and she says that's great, because this Future Vision rune also seems really good, thanking him for being honest with her, as it must be difficult to reveal this to someone else, even if it is a friend. But he says she revealed her class, so it's fair. But she doesn't think he revealed his rune, asking how that's fair. And since that's the case, how about she tells him about her rune too? He says it's not okay, but she says the rune she got in the first round was the rune of protection. And for each person within a 10-meter radius, it creates a thin barrier around them. So, if there are 5 people, it provides 5 layers of protection. And she says that's a good thing. Being able to talk about it with someone. Prota questions if it's serious, but she asks why he brought up the rune out of nowhere. He says that hiding it would be a burden for him, and he doesn't think that. She would believe what he's about to say if he hadn't told her this beforehand. And then she asks, what do you mean? Prota then tells her about the mission for the 4th round, and the girl is surprised. He says that's why she also needs to be careful, telling her to stay alert around the other players. She says she understands, adding that she's glad he told her this, because the beginning of the game was interesting. However, with the treatment she received, she decides to kill him by blowing up his head. But, when trying to do this, the angel realizes that she has already used her death ability, which was also told her first, implying that maybe he has a little space in his heart for her, and that would be really nice. Sometime later, he's at home and surprised that she likes him. From him. After all, he's invading her mind, and he claims he never knew, because he kept wondering why she was treating him so well. It's a little surprising, but it's better this way, because it will be easier to make her his ally. Wow, no way, man. Are you really going to use her like that? I mean, yeah, you were already going to use her in another way, right? But, hey, knowing that she likes you, that's a really low blow, man. And, he says he will also make it easier for her to believe in his prophecies. But, since he's thought about so much today, he's going to rest a bit, as there's not much else he needs to do this month. And so time passes by very quickly. And, on April 31st, at 11:55 a.m., before entering the other world, he bought an epic item from the daily item shop, which are the shadow gloves. He says that the stats are good, and the effect is also excellent, and it will be very effective to use this in conjunction with the Night of Death skill. And then his brother knocks on the door and tells him that the time has come, asking if he's confident he'll be able to finish it this time as well. And the protagonist says he'll know when he gets there, but he tells his brother that he had said he was a prophet and that knew some things about the 4th round, and he says that knowing and doing are 2 different things. And On quickly becomes worried, saying that he needs to survive, no matter what, but the protagonist tells him not to jinx it, asking if he's trying to kill him before he even gets there, and so he lies down to sleep and says that the 4th round is the round of death. Then they notice that it started again, opening the status window and seeing that he still has the penalty active, where all attributes drop by 50%. He says that what he achieved was by trading John's sake, who was like a role model. Single instantaneous one. Then, she remembers that she has something interesting to give him, and asks to talk to Ryu Achos. Upon hearing this, the other players are surprised by the fact that he managed to for him, and he doesn't even have the command authorities. So, how is he going to finish the 4th round? Because anyone who desires the position of regional representative might come after him or his people. Friends may try to get revenge, but above all, he is wondering what this place is and what mission will begin here, because the place is completely empty, as if they were laboratory rats. But then he looks to the side and sees a Black Reaper, who says that that son of a bitch definitely knew he would end up like this, because he destroyed the relic using other players, and it's suspicious how he killed the Seeker of Divine Retribution without hesitation, and if he had the strength, he would have smashed his face right then and there. But he thinks that it's making him pissed, but there's nothing he can do, because he needs to dance in the devil's hand. If he wants to survive, then he goes to the protagonist, and Rio questions what he wants. He asks if the contract from the previous round is still valid, and the protagonist questions him about this contract, and he says that, in exchange for becoming a subordinate, he said he would give him protect, and Prota says he no longer needs a subordinate like him, leaving me wondering what he's talking about. Then Prota says that he no longer has authority or command, asking what the point of a region representative who has no authority, especially since the majority of players have already finished their advancement. If he couldn't even achieve that, he's nothing more than useless, and Prota says he no longer has any use for him, as now he is nothing more than a walking target. And the man is very surprised to be labeled as such a walking target, so he looks back and sees everyone trying to hide their true intentions. So Prota tells him not to worry too much, as he is a target in name only, and there probably aren't that many people trying to kill him. Then the man wonders if people haven't already come after him. He says, negotiate with an angel, and some begin to consider doing the same, but the other players deduce that she is only acting like this towards Ryu because he is rank 1. So, the only thing left, that he must already know the final fate of a player in the position of region representative, and the others also understood this, because being the representative of the region isn't exactly. One good thing is that, as people grow stronger, the total number of people you can control using command authority decreases, making it not worth the risk. He realizes that the Dark Reaper is right, even though he wishes he could get rid of that authority right now if possible. Then Aaron approaches him, and Mink, who is nearby, is surprised to see those guys are there, and then she goes to talk to the Black Reaper, and Aaron asks if he happens to remember him. The protagonist says, yes, of course, and asks what's up. Then she says that he was the one who saved him from that bully over there. They want to thank him once again. Yong Min asks why they are calling him a bully, but then the protagonist doesn't let him get worked up, saying that thanking him once is enough and that they don't need to see him again. But Aaron still says that they feel grateful, as the president of their company also sent his thanks for saving him, and he tries to talk about his president, but the protagonist tells him to stop right there because he doesn't care. However, Aaron speaks with him, saying that this is to show his sincerity and gratitude for saving him, showing him the crystal, and asking the protagonist to take it. Then, he notices that it is a low-level purple crystal, which is unexpected once again, and she says she doesn't think, if you think these words are enough, then this might be helpful. He says that this is a good gesture, thanking the girl and saying that he has no reason to refuse such a good item, as he will need it to try to make a low-level magic crystal when he gets back. And the girl is a little apprehensive, wondering if he liked it and if he won't be angry because she gave him a speed and confronts the fire arrows head-on, making it clear that hitting him will be difficult. However, he then notices a magic circle beneath his feet, and, to defend himself from this new attack, for them, is to be jealous of the guy. Then, he returns to staring at Yong Min with that same arrogant look as before. So, he follows the angel, and she tells him to come closer, and, at her command, he decides, useless stone, and the protagonist thought, she doesn't know the value of a magic crystal. Of course, if she knew, she wouldn't be giving it to him, and the man thinks he has something like that too, but then he notices that he also has a mana crystal, and believes it's called the Black and Gold Strength Stone. Proto, upon hearing all of this, is very surprised, because the Black and Gold Strength Stone is an item that has an extremely low chance of being obtained by defeating an enemy. It's a more difficult item to obtain than a magic crystal, and it would be impossible to intentionally get one right now. Now that he knows he has a precious item, this is likely either good or bad luck. Then, the girl speaks to the black servant, suggesting that perhaps he needs a barrier. He questions her about it, and she explains that she obtained the summoner class and can use a fairy to create a barrier for him if he needs one. He appreciates the offer but declines, saying that he doesn't think he needs one, which makes the girl a little discouraged. Then, she says that she'll be going now, hoping that he does well during this round, and he wishes her good luck. Yong Min leaves, but the Prota asks him to wait, saying that if he continues like this, he will regret it later. And Yong Min asks what he means by that. But Prota Quaishun didn't explain further, stating that he is a walking target. But he remembers that Prota said there wouldn't be anyone else after him, and he clarifies that he said, there wouldn't be times many asterisk. Not that there wouldn't be times anyone times who wants to. And the benefits of being the representative of the region have not completely disappeared entirely. And even though some of them have reached level 10 and obtained a class, there are some who haven't managed to do so yet, which means that all.This, by authority of command, still holds power. He tells Yom to think about it, asking if he really thinks none of the thousands of players will come after him. Then, Yom asks Prota what he should do, obey her. However, she considers it insolent, since humans only listen when she raises her voice. And she notices that they are a very greedy race, but she doesn't know exactly what to give him, saying that he will help him so that he isn't such an easy target. And Yom starts to thank him, but Prota interrupts, saying he didn't say he would do it for free. And as payment for helping him, he asks if he recognized the stone Errand gave him, and if he possessed anything similar, he would accept it as payment. And then he tells me that he has one of those while handing over the black and gold power stone. He asks if he has any items, but the man replies no, stating that he gave everything he had, begging him not to take his equipment. However, the protagonist tells him not to worry, as he wouldn't have. I would have taken it even if he had offered. Then, he says that he already gave him the item, asking if he will help him, and the protagonist says that he will keep his promise. And just then, the angel appears there, saying that they have gathered there today without fail, but she notices that their numbers have dropped significantly, and they are surprised by this, wondering if some people fought in the real world. However, the protagonist would be more surprised if a player hadn't gotten into some kind of trouble for an entire month. And she says that now, since everyone seems to be present, she will announce the 4th round. Then, she announces that the Kill Each Other mission starts in 3 hours, that all regions are participating, and only half of them will pass. And the current region is Prota's, which has 1,042 people, so 521 can pass. They are extremely surprised, as they will need to kill each other, and she says that humans get confused very easily, and they just need to do it. As she says, they need to kill the players who are with them, and it's quite simple. They can't even believe what she's asking, and she says that, to explain a little better, the objective of that round is to reduce the number of players, causing them to kill each other, and, unlike the other rounds, there will be no monsters this time. They begin to become increasingly confused, with some even thinking that they need to increase their 5. For him, after all, she doesn't even know how to change something that the game system assigned to him. Furthermore, she states that she wouldn't help him even if she could. In this, she says that the best level to become stronger. But one of them, Anjo, speaks up, saying that since only half can survive, it's only necessary to kill one person. And she says that this is a secret, because it wouldn't be. It would be fun if he told them everything. And the protagonist questions whether that would be fun, pointing out that she is only following her superior's orders, and that the angels only bring information for them in this shitty game. Furthermore, the master is someone else entirely. The fact that she's hiding a specific rule implies she's receiving orders from the master. He states that she won't complete the mission simply by killing players. Only 521 can survive, but how the ranking will be formed is a secret. And one more thing. You won't be in first place just for being the first to kill someone. But she then says that this is the end of the explanation, and now they can start killing each other. So, the time limit is 3 hours. They wonder what they will do, because they need to kill someone else. They think it will be difficult even if they have no personal issues with anyone. So, Yong Min thinks about it, saying that it's lucky because there were some idiots that he really be wanting to kill. And the protagonist says that, as he suspected, Yong Min is planning to kill his own friends. But Yong Min considers something, because, on second thought, it's better for him if the players are hesitating about killing each other, as that will make him invincible. He doesn't know where the others are, but he's going to kill everyone. However, the protagonist suddenly appears nearby, giving him a huge fright. And so he asks the Black Reaper if something is wrong, and the Reaper replies that he promised to help him avoid becoming a target and is there to fulfill that promise, invoking his scythe and swinging it past him. And then the protagonist beautifully passes by, cleanly ripping his head off. And with that, the secret mission is unlocked, which is to eliminate the region's representative within the he would have done is accept what he received from the beginning, because now she has a personal vendetta against him, and her plan is to kill him, but she understands that doing so could backfire, and she explains that if time limit, he receives a random selection token from a lower-level mana stone, and it's given to him. He completes the secret mission and is rewarded with this token, and it is said that when he goes to the next round, that item will automatically disappear due to the luck attribute. He thinks it's great because he got the reward he wanted by killing Yong Min to get the secret mission reward, even if that wasn't the only reason he did it. And everyone is surprised when the person dies, with them shouting that the Dark Reaper was the one who killed him, and the protagonist thinks that not long ago, they were people who wanted to kill the representative, and now they're acting like good Samaritans. And so they speak fervently, saying that he can't just kill people as he pleases, asking if he has no humanity inside him, and calling him a murderer. And the protagonist thinks that they aren't wrong, because he killed Jang. And that's not all. He will continue killing countless people until the 20th round, but he never kills someone without a reason, especially in this round, where he has no choice but to kill in order to proceed. That is, whether he said it or not. He says that even though they know this, they are criticizing him, but in reality, they are thinking about something else. Because if this works out, they can incite people to kill the guy, the Dark Reaper, and they think they have to use this chance to tarnish the Black Reaper's image. If they attack him as a group, he won't be able to do anything. They can't let the Dark Reaper become the representative of the region. They need to condemn him somehow. And the protagonist realizes that they think they're going to get a big opportunity, but he thinks it's a joke. They question, is amused, wondering if he might be a psychopath. After all, after what he did, how dare he laugh? Then the system designates the protagonist as the new representative of that region, and, killing a player for personal reasons, without using her one-time use ability, other players would likely rebel against the fairness of the game. And with that, the people in command would. Everyone is surprised that he is the representative now, because it's like giving a gun to a professional shooter, and they wonder what they can do. But the protagonist asks, what's wrong? Wondering why they aren't complaining anymore, he questions if they've become scared now that he's the region's representative, adding that, if they are afraid, he believes it's justified, because they haven't undergone their class change yet. Then, some of them become fearful, pointing out that the color of his name has changed. They're surprised that only his name has changed, and the protagonist thinks that it must have changed to neon red, since in rounds like this, your name turns red when you kill someone. The more you kill, the darker the color becomes, and the color change in names serves to distinguish those who have killed someone from those who haven't. Consequently, people end up hunting down murderers instead of innocent players, which is, after all, easier on their consciences. But people who kill assassins also become assassins themselves, which, in turn, encourages players to kill other players. They may be hesitating now, but this will give them reason to. The death of many. He questions their actions, certain they have no time to waste. They tell him to stay put, wanting to attack, but he retorts that they're making it look like he's the only one who wanted to kill the region's representative, and the people who went after John Say in the last round are the same ones. They are left speechless, and the protagonist states, it's kill or be killed. They can't claim to have survived this long without knowing that basic principle, and tells them to stop with the hypocrisy and face reality, saying that if their head is on the line, they can't help but hold a knife against those who threaten their life, and now is not the time to stand still. Furthermore, if that, hold her responsible for ruining their experience. However, she still plans to kill him, but far away from any witnesses. And, after moving even further away from the other players, she asks, bothers them so much, they should hold a debate like the last time they voted. And he thinks that, even if he doesn't say it, they're going to fight anyway, but it will be too late for them. But if they don't at least say that much, they'll continue wasting time. And if that happens, the number of people who pass might not be 521. Even if it means fighting each other, encouraging them to do the mission is more important than the lives of others. Then, a girl says she doesn't think they should just stand still, because, as the Black Reaper said, they must do something. So, the guy asks what she suggests, and if she wants to talk, but she questions him. Why such a sarcastic tone when she talks about it? Because she is just talking about discussing what to do. So, he asks about one-on-one duels, but another criticizes that idea, asking if he's seeing this as a game. That guy gets angry, and they both almost start fighting. And Aaron, seeing this, gets scared, asking Anne what they should do, and if they really need to kill someone, like the Black Reaper said, and he says, which of course they have to do, because if they don't, they will be killed. Volley questions, who cares about the life of a stranger that nobody even knows, but the girl still seems a little down about it. and he says that he completely agrees with what the Black Reaper said, telling Errand that she had better make up her mind soon, because murder isn't exactly a pleasant experience, after all. And she looks at him, saying that he speaks as if he has done it before, which he tries to disguise by claiming that he is just theorizing. So she asks who they should kill, and he says that they can let their mood decide, and everyone starts arguing around them, and the situation gets uglier and uglier, and the protagonist thinks he can hear everyone getting more and more nervous as a result. Then, what exactly he wants. Then, Rio punches her in the face, leaving her completely bewildered. She gets up, in disbelief that she had actually been punched by a human. But, upon realizing, one of them notices that the protagonist is looking at him and asks him what they are saying, adding that a person's life is precious, and they shouldn't kill anyone, not even murderers. They say that's right, because if you kill someone, you'll become a murderer just like him. But one of them asks what they suggest, since someone has to die for him to live, so they say that they should stop that argument and just agree to kill the criminals. But a girl asks how they're going to identify the criminals, questioning if they're going to ask for their records, by any chance, saying that they won't be able to do that. But one of them asks who the hell she is, telling her to give a worthwhile opinion and cursing at the girl. So the two continue arguing until things get increasingly tense, and one of them even pulls out a gun, wanting to fight. The protagonist sees that it's turning into a complete mess, saying that they keep talking, but they can't accomplish anything. And yet, he doesn't need to worry, because they'll start killing each other before long. One of them tells them to start being realistic, but he ends up realizing something. Looking to the side, he sees that he is alive. They are surprised, and the pro says that this is the secret rule of that round. After 10 minutes, the players come back from the dead. Emin questions why people are looking at him like that. Because they're not just looking at him, they're looking at him as if he were some kind of zombie. And he thinks this is strange because he's sure he was talking to the Dark Reaper, and he questions what is going on. And so they scream that he came back to life and was revived as if it were a miracle. But then he asks what they're talking about, saying that the system made him reappear. Then they realize that this means that those who die, that it had indeed happened. She launches an attack, but he vanishes before her eyes, reappearing right next to her, grabbing her wings and tearing them off. Then, Rio tells her to stop. In that round will be revived and think that, therefore, it is okay to kill them. One of them thinks that if they come back to life anyway, everything must be fine. They get ready to charge and a girl asks those guys to calm down, explaining that they aren't even sure if they can revive, so they should take it easy. But she doesn't even finish her sentence and ends up getting killed. My friends, this is about to become a huge mess. I think that anyone who dies with less than 10 minutes remaining won't come back. So, half of them are going to have to die in the last 10 minutes. Things are going to get very intense. Leave a like, subscribe if you want me to continue recapping this manhwa, because I'm really enjoying it. It's currently being released, and I want to catch up to the latest chapters. Also, remember to take a look at the beginning of the video. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video, and leave a comment requesting the next part, which I will definitely bring to you. I'll see you in the next video. Being such a crybaby and asks if it hurts. At this, she says that it obviously hurts, and Rio points out that she was the one asking obvious questions not long ago, but she wonders if he is going crazy. He explains that she was going to try to kill him with a dagger hidden in her wing, and, when caught, her silence betrays her intention. However, she tries to. He activates Moonlight of Destruction, managing to tear his enemy in half. However, he feels that he won't get anywhere if he continues to just react to attacks, so he decides to change the subject and asks what he means by kill. After all, she didn't intend to do anything like that, but Rio tells her to stop lying, because he can see it just by looking at her face. He then calls her by her real name, Burial. Surprised by this, she asks how a human knows her name, but Rue tells her that she doesn't need to know. Then, he pulls out a gun, and she questions why he's doing this, and Rue makes it clear that he intends to kill her. To try and prevent this, she threatens to blow his head off with a snap of her fingers. However, he states that she can no longer kill anyone. Then, Biel says that her friends won't let him get away with this, but Rue scoffs at her for calling angels friends. After all, they are selfish beings who don't care about other people's problems. He adds that Biel could die, and the angels still wouldn't do anything. Then she explains that he won't benefit at all if he kills her, but he remains convinced that he will. Burial then says that if he kills her, he won't be able to return home. However, he explains that the system will automatically send him home until the scoring is over. And while she does that, she questions him about how he knows this information. So, Biel tries to negotiate with him again and promises to give him any information he wants. But, to do that, he'll need to give her a chance, but he says he doesn't need any information from her. After all, he could get it by torturing her if he wanted to. However, he already understands how the ecosystem of her species works, knows her purpose, and is also aware that Burial is nothing more than a chess piece acting as a guide. And upon hearing this, she gets angry and launches an attack, but is soon defeated with one blow from Ryu. And after that, he discovers that he was the first player to kill an angel. So, he receives the title of First Angel Slayer, and furthermore, put an end to this once and for all. Then, he activates Moonlight of Destruction along with Blood Moon, inflicting damage on all the golems. And after finishing them all, he gains the Angel Blood item for killing his first angel, and also a Slaughter rune, and soon after, it is engraved on his body, and with that, he understands that the current rewards are given to the player who defeats the first angel, and Rio mentions that he learned about this reward when he avenged himself against an angel on his 13th attempt. We are told that, upon activating the kill rune, Ryu's attributes will increase by 1% each time he eliminates a target, and this effect lasts until the end of the current round. Each of these rewards is comparable to a unique item. Then, Rio states that the angels were impressed to see that he had already obtained a rune. The main reason he killed an angel was to acquire the Angel Blood item, which allows him to change to the Semi-Fedor class, provided he is at level 10 or higher. Then, he explains that all players are able to acquire a class starting from level 10. In addition, there are a total of 30 different classes, and Rio states that it is relatively easy to change classes. You simply need to obtain a class change item, and the player can achieve this naturally, from hunting and by fulfilling simple conditions. However, there are some exceptions, such as unique classes, as these can only be granted to a single player, who obtains it under special circumstances, and for this reason, they will obviously be on a different level than normal classes. After all, they possess bonus attributes, runes of progress, skill compositions, and many other things. And having explained all of this, Rio recounts that he returned without even finishing the first round. Then, he will use the reward for coming in first place across all regions. In doing so, he comes face to face with 3 special reward options, one of which is a buff that increases his XP threefold, 2,000. Access to the door guarding something the Guardians were defending. Arriving there, he gains access to an unknown location that looks like a temple, and directly in front of him, there is a door, gold, and information for the second round, and most importantly, to reach level 10 as quickly as possible. To change classes, he decides to take the buff that increases XP threefold, and he explains that this is his last attempt to get out of there alive, so his priority is to become stronger, no matter what it takes. And well, he makes it to the end of the first round, and the second round will take place on the 1st of February 2023. With that, everyone is transported back to the real world. Yong Min wonders what's going on. Then, everyone around him comment on having had a very realistic dream, and upon checking his cell phone, Yom realizes that the time he spent in the dream was the same amount of time that passed in the real world. Then, his friends wake up inside that dream and complain about all their sore limbs. Then, Yom explains that everyone there fainted, just like they did. So, they find it strange that they all fainted. At the same time, they ask if Omin also had a strange dream, and he says that he did. However, he doesn't think it was just a simple dream, and upon hearing this, everyone despairs. After all, if that isn't a dream, they will be sent back into the game on the first day of next month for the second round. And well, they notice that Kinta, who is stylish, still hasn't woken up yet, and, trying to wake him up, they realize that the boy was no longer breathing, and with that, they deduce that he died because he couldn't survive in the game. And as they look back, they realize that there are more people who haven't woken up yet. Then, they discover that everyone is dead, and the next round will continue to annihilate more humans. And upon facing this terrible reality, Yongin claims that this is madness, and Yom understands that game as true equality between the races, because regardless of social class, everyone is treated equally, and therefore, although he feels that something might emerge from there, he can only be sure of what's inside if he goes through the door. Upon doing so, he comes across a sign labeled, Boss Room Entrance. He states that there is no reason for them to cry about having an unfair life, and he tells his friends to stop worrying so much, because now they should focus on surviving. But one of the friend laments and explains that dying without having enjoyed life is very unfair, but then says that everyone else is trapped in this survival game along with them, meaning that for him, there is nothing unfair about it. Then, one of the colleagues explains that the fact that Yong Min was a bully throughout his life makes him a guy without much desire in life. So if he dies in this game, it doesn't really matter. His friend states that there is still a lot he wants to do, and therefore, he doesn't want to die. At that moment, he notices that Yong Min is looking around a lot, and Yong Min explains that he is looking for his errand boy. And then he begins to consider that the boy didn't even make it past the first round, and upon further analyzing the environment, he notices a boy with strange clothes, and soon after, one of his friends opens an attribute window in the real world. And upon seeing this, everyone is shocked, including the boy himself, but Yong says that he is not able to see the boy's window. From this, they deduce that each person can only see their own window. Consequently, they question whether they would also be able to use their attributes and items in the real world. Yong Min decides to do a test by blowing up a rock with just his hand, and when he sees that it works, he becomes extremely excited. Meanwhile, the TV reports that, early in the morning, more than 1,000 civilians lost consciousness at the same time, and the journalist reports on the appearance of a mysterious angel woman who descended to speak with the civilians. And, shortly after this incident, it is reported that a civilian died instantly after pointing a finger at that creature. And after that, the angel pointed his hand at the civilians, causing 10,001 people to fall asleep simultaneously. And the journalist reports, however, he can only access the door with 4 other players, but since he doesn't meet the requirements, the game threatens to kill him in 5 seconds. He begins to despair and curse those that, according to the police, all the people who collapsed were between 15 and 29 years old. Furthermore, this event didn't just happen in their country, but across the entire world. However, people they believed these news reports because, in their minds, the reporter must have been on all sorts of drugs before going on air. Then, the journalist continues the story, reporting that, at 5:20 a.m., only half of the civilians regained consciousness, while the others suffered brain death. And in this, Rio comments that while articles about the incident are spreading, the real problem remains out of sight. So, Rio explains that it could become a major problem if players have access to their in-game abilities in the real world, because even if their attributes aren't high, it's only a matter of time before someone becomes skilled enough to become an undeniable force. And Rio explains that, if things get to that point, humanity won't be able to do anything to stop these players, since human weapons won't be able to suppress them, and Ryu has no intention of letting that happen. He understands that there's only one way to prevent it. That's what's going to happen. Basically, he'll have to control all the players with the potential for destructive power. Then, he remembers that he still needs to recruit some players in order to access the final room. Rio says that he already has a few people in mind. Furthermore, he's already thought about the methods he'll use to recruit these players. But for the time being, he has something else more important to do. When he arrives home, he notices that his younger brother had dinner there again, as usual. Then, he goes to the bedroom and finds H sleeping. Rio explains that his family used to be normal. However, when his parents died in a car accident, a lot changed. But for him, the most drastic change was the fact that he became his brother's sole guardian. Then, he turns on the light, involved in making such a door. As he looks at his hand, he sees it begin to disappear, and soon after, he dies, fulfilling the requirement to activate the rune of temporal reversal, and tells the boy to get up. W notices that it's still 6 a.m., but Rio claims that they are out of time and says that he will explain everything to W later, but for now, they have to leave. From there. Then, the boy says he'd rather sleep than watch the sunrise, and Rio warns him that the world is in danger. Therefore, one should follow him, because along the way, he will be filled in on what is going on. So, Rio tells one to research the current hot topic, and the boy discovers that an angel appeared and took several civilians to another world. In light of this, Rio explains that only the souls of these people were taken, and he would have been one of them. However, since he was able to kill the 100 goblins, he was able to return to the real world. And upon hearing this, one worries and asks if he got hurt, but Rio tells his brother to stay calm about it. However, one states that this is impossible, as his older brother is now his only family. Furthermore, the boy explains that, to fill the void their parents left, Rio needed to become a very mentally strong person. However, he finds it strange that he managed to kill without Gomez. After all, there's a significant difference between mental and physical strength. Rio then explains that this world has a system of attributes, just like in games. Therefore, real-world physical strength doesn't determine anything here. He asks one to keep following him, but the boy refuses to go anywhere until his brother explains exactly what's going on. and Ryo reveals that he's going to Bengu's hideout, Bengu being the leader of one's delinquent group. Ryo then states that Bengu is threatening one. At this, the boy asks how his brother knows this, and Ryo replies that there was no way he couldn't know. The boy apologizes, but Ryo actually didn't know. He explains that he discovered the truth a few hours later. Furthermore, he travels back in time to before the first round, and then uses the time reversal rune to its limit, exhausting it completely. Consequently, the engraved rune is automatically after returning from his first run in the first round, because that day he received a call telling him to go to a specific hospital immediately, and when they got back from there, his brother had been beaten by Bantengu until he was blinded, and Ryo feels helpless because he couldn't protect his brother at that time. So, he apologizes to Wu, and promises that no one will mess with him again. While they are on their way there, Bantengu is assaulting one of his henchmen because they failed to bring the money they were supposed to collect. Seeing this, the 3 other henchmen comment that Bantengu is acting exactly as expected. After all, he doesn't even have mercy on his own allies. Then, one of the guys remarks that not even veterans from other schools dare to mess with Bantengu. Meanwhile, he continues to berate his henchmen and states that he had already planned to buy a motorcycle with the money they were going to bring. At that moment, he turns to the other henchmen and orders them to quickly figure out how he can make money. One of the henchmen suggests that Bantengu extort money from his ride, a tall guy with dark hair, black, and he says that he was already thinking about calling one, but his intention was just to beat him up, since he wouldn't be able to get any money from him, as the boy is practically a beggar. And Tegu explains that one's house is completely run down. What's more, he doesn't even have any peace. And speaking of him, one himself shows up there, and Tegu immediately becomes enraged. And then one apologizes, and the chubby guy comes back, gets angry, and says that the guy's look is pissing him off. Then he introduces himself as Ryu, one's older brother, and Tegu threatens to kill them both right then and there. Because of this, the henchmen step to the front and ask if one's brother is any good at fighting, but they end up finding out the hard way, which is to say, by getting thoroughly beaten up. And then, 2 others try to jump into the action, but end up destroyed, and thus begins his 100th regression. He returns to his starting point, and is furious that he only went back a few minutes before being caught by the game, and getting a beating as well. And upon seeing the boy fighting, Tegu confesses that he really did learn to fight somewhere, but he still feels like he can beat him, because he trusts in his own strength. Physical condition, after all, that's very important for a fight. However, Ryo asks if he saw the latest news, but he just charges in without even wanting to know anything. But soon after, he realizes that something is wrong, as he can't land a single punch on Ryo. So, he states that if he had been aware of the news, he wouldn't have even considered challenging a player like him. Then, the boy receives a violent blow to the face, and, soon after, tries to attack him again. But Ryu suddenly disappears and reappears, landing another blow. And even taking a beating, the boy claims that Ryu is no match for him. Then, he attacks again, but receives several punches to the face, and Ryu notices that the boy aimed at his face on purpose, with the intention of irritating him. So, he rushes forward, begging to be able to hit him at least once. However, he receives another, even stronger blow. Then, he remembers again the feeling of helplessness that he felt in the day he saw his brother in that state. As for Tegui, he begs Ryu to leave him alone, but Ryu replies that he shouldn't have messed with his brother. With that, Ryu twists Tegui's hand and his. The henchmen take the opportunity to escape. Ryu warns that if Tegui messes with his brother again, something worse will happen. So, Tegui promises that he won't do anything to Aum anymore, but Ryu decides to twist his hand even more to ensure that the boy doesn't change his mind later. After leaving, Hun questions whether his brother learned martial arts somewhere, and Ryu explains that players can also use their skills in the real world. Then, Ryu takes a dagger from his inventory, and his brother is perplexed by the scene and understands why his brother had. This has always been really good. I want to bring it to you guys until the end, but whether I continue depends on you. So, leave a like, comment, so I know you're. He laments that this happened just as he had reached the end of the 20th round, wishing time could stop right there. Then, the New Year countdown ends, and he becomes so fast during the fight. Ryu explains that his dexterity attribute is 11, meaning he is faster than even a professional athlete, since they only have 10 dexterity points. General. Then, Hun questions Ryu about what would happen if he increased his level. Ryu replies that there's no way to know for sure, since he hasn't reached that point yet, but it's obvious that he was hiding information from his brother. and Rio explains that he doesn't plan to reveal to his brother that he's a regressor. He explains that when he did so in his first regression, his brother ended up being kidnapped by another player, and even though he already took revenge, he would feel terrible if his brother were humiliated again because of him. Furthermore, Rio states that he needs to be prepared to protect his brother from the future fights that will occur between other players. So, he calls his brother to go get coffee, and when they arrive, Rio notices how much Han managed to save, and upon seeing his brother withdrawing all the money, Han questions what he's going to do with it. Rio simply says that he will need that money for something, so he willing to buy anything from that convenience store. However, his brother mentions that everything there is very expensive, but Rio says it's okay for him to buy as much food as he wants, and that, plus, he had only been eating ramen recently. Then, the boy grabs a box of spicy pork belly, and Rio tells him that they should eat it at a restaurant sometime. However, On claims that this is already more than enough for him, but Ryu still felt excited to give his brother as much meat as possible. While his brother eats, he goes to the convenience store area and buys 20 tickets, which comes to around 100,000, and his brother thinks it's crazy. After all, he's not even sure if he's going to win anything from it. And when filling out the board, he grabs onto this last attempt with all his strength because he still wants to see the end of this game. But to do so, he's going to need to bring 4 people with him. So he starts looking around. Ticket, he chooses the same sequence of numbers and explains to his brother that these are the winning numbers. And when they get home, Ons despairs even before they announce the lottery winners, and his brother tells them to calm down. When the lottery numbers are announced, they win first place. This leaves him in disbelief, as he thinks that it's all a dream, but Rio insists that it's real. At that moment, the boy jumps for joy, and his brother asks him to be quieter so as not to wake the neighbors. However, Rio understands his joy from his brother, since he was also that happy the first time he found out he could do this. Then he goes to his brother and celebrates with him, and Rio explains that, as he got used to it, he now sees it as an annual event he has to do, because his goal is to get money as quickly as possible after each regression, and he explains that 900 million players have already died. Because of this, the economy will go crazy, and the exchange of items between players, which will be more active in the future, will be done with money. And, well, the W asks his brother how much they will earn from all those tickets, and Ryud has no idea, but he feels it will be more than enough to shake the world. The next day, he goes to the bank to collect the first-place lottery prize. Meanwhile, at the lottery headquarters, people are discussing the winning ticket. They explain that the branch that awarded this prize gave out 115 tickets in that same drawing, but furthermore, 100 of those tickets came from the same location. His coworker informs him that if he finds the winner who bought the ticket through Rui's branch, he must immediately call the bank president, and so he does. Thereupon, the president appears and introduces himself as Guan. Then, he asks them to choose the right people. The story then cuts back to a few minutes earlier, where 2 boys are celebrating New Year's Eve, since in Korea, young people legally become adults on the ASO, talk in a private room, and upon arriving there, he informs one of his employees that the boy is a VIP client who has come to collect his winnings and instructs her to make him feel comfortable and, therefore, she despairs, but tries to remain calm around the boy. Ryu gets straight to the point, saying he just wants to collect his reward as soon as possible. At that moment, she checks all the tickets and confirms that they are all authentic and informs him that the prize value is 22.5 million WS. After that, Ryu explains that he was looking for a better place to live, and, at night, he opened a stock account because his idea was to invest in bitcoins, since their value was expected to rise by 500%, and his plan was to invest in stocks after increasing his money with bitcoins. Then, he asks what his brother thought of his new house, and his brother says he thought it was incredible, as he had only ever seen houses like that in pictures. However, something catches his attention, and Onan asks why. Ryu chose to pay rent, since they have enough money to buy a new house. Ryu explains that he doesn't have the money. After all, he only kept 1 million O with him, but the rest, he invested in Bitcoin. With that, W turns pale, but his brother assures him there's no risk, because if anything goes wrong, he can just play the lottery since he already has the winning numbers. 4 winning lottery numbers in his dreams, so he begs him not to forget the numbers, but he reassures him, explaining that he's done this countless times, so there's no way he'll forget them. Now, as for Yong Min, he's still amazed by his strength, and feels he made the right choice, allocating his stats like that, putting almost all his points into strength. Furthermore, he also obtained the Rune of Strength, which doubles his character's strength even further. Yong Min believes that even Mike Tyson would be surprised to see a punch as strong as his. And speaking of, new year of their 18th birthday. Therefore, they both became adults at the same time, and one of the boys thinks it's awesome that he no longer has to fake his ID. Then, one of the boys is unsure. Professional fighters, he plans to enter a real fight to test his limits. So, Yong Min goes to Ryo's house to try and contact him, but he doesn't find anyone there. There, he figures that the boy is probably running away to avoid being used by him again. Then Yong Min remembers that defiant look Ryu had given him, which irritates him. He gets stressed and starts banging on the door, wanting to get in and punish him. However, he realizes that the house is too quiet, leading him to believe that Ryu is hiding. So he lies, saying that he is leaving, but his real intention is to destroy the door to get inside. But a man introduces himself as the property manager and asks if he is there looking for a friend. And the boy takes advantage of this and says that he is indeed looking for his friend. Then he asks the man to open the door. However, the superintendent explains that the room is empty now, because the student who lived there moved somewhere else. He wonders when this happened and where Ryu went. Then the man says this happened today, but he doesn't know where the boy went. At this, he infuriates him even more. Meanwhile, Hone marvels at the new place they are living in, and upon arriving at the apartment, Ryu says that the place is 330 square meters, which amazes his brother because of all that space and because it's too much for just the two of them. But Ryo claims that they have plenty of money and, therefore, he needs an apartment of at least that size. However, he surprises Han even more when he hears the rent amount, and Ryo reveals that the place cost 550 million as a deposit, but the monthly rent is 22 million. And the boy questions his brother about the price of the house, because he thinks the place is too expensive. And Ryo claims that the security of that building is worth the price. Then, it is explained to us that on the first day of each month, all players will suffer from narcolepsy, which in this case is the what to do with his life after graduating. So, he asks Yong Min what he plans to do, and he says that he's going to become a gangster, just like he's been saying, and upon seeing him, his friends call him Lu. Most vulnerable period for all players, as this is when natural disasters can kill them. But in addition to natural disasters, they can also be killed by assassins hired by other players. Therefore, when that moment arrives, they need to be in the safest place possible, because no matter how extraordinary a player is in the other world, everything will fall apart if he dies in real life. Ryo then asks if his brother liked the house, and Hun obviously says it's great, but something else was bothering him. He was feeling bad for his brother, being in danger and being dragged into another world, while he just enjoys all of this. At that, Ryo slaps him on the shoulder and reassures him, saying that he will certainly return in the next round. So, he changes the subject and invites W to eat at the building's Korean restaurant. And when he picks up his cell phone, he notices that Yong Min has already discovered that he changed his address, but he decides to just ignore him. After all, they certainly won't see each other in real life anymore, and as far as he's concerned, the most that will happen is that they'll meet in the other world. And well, the next day, Ryu notices that his brother is all dressed up. At this, his brother explains that he ordered some rice cakes and is going to pick them up. So, Ryu wonders if this has happened before, but he feels that this is the first time his brother has gone out to buy rice cakes. He asks his brother why he bought the cakes. In response, his brother explains that he intends to distribute them to the neighbors, to make friends with everyone and show that he has good manners. And upon seeing this, Ryu says that it's a good idea, so he decides to go too. As they stop by the first house, they are greeted by a lady. Following this, the two continue delivering more rice cakes and getting to know their neighbors. So, they only have one neighbor left to meet, who lives on the penthouse floor, which is to say, after all, he could die if he makes any mistakes in that kind of work, but Yong Min says you only live once, so he should enjoy it to the fullest. At that moment, his friends feel that it's the area where the mega-rich people live, and when they ring the doorbell, no one answers. However, they discover that no one was answering because the person wasn't home, and when the elevator arrives, they see who lives there. Then, they discover that it's actress Seo Arin's apartment. When the man sees the boys, he asks who they are, and the boys reply that they are the neighbors from downstairs. So, they try to offer her the rice cake, but the girl's companion says that Seo Arin doesn't eat things like that, and tells her to leave. At that moment, Ryo comments, "That guy is Ben rude," and tells Wo not to mind him. However, the boy was already captivated by the actress's beauty, to the point where he didn't even care about the guy's rudeness. Meanwhile, Arin was reading about the tragedy in the news. Then, one of her contacts comments on the news and mentions that Gonsian died. He then changes the subject and asks if she will go to Eogia the next day. She says yes, because he took such good care of them, so she couldn't miss it. Then, her contact agrees to go with her as well. Irene reflects on this and feels awkward, believed that someone more famous than she was died in the first round of the game. However, she remembers that she is only alive because she obtained a good rune, and with that in mind, she wonders if she would have gotten far without the company's sponsorship. Just then, Kung Huan approaches her and asks what she's thinking about, and she tries to brush it off, saying it's nothing important. However, he insists, and Aaron reveals that she is very pensive about the fact that the world ended in such a way, and she keeps thinking about how she will survive the next round. But Kung Huan reassures her and tells her that she doesn't need to worry about anything because he is there to protect her. But she feels that the company only assigned her a manager and a security guard with the intention of watching over her. However, she understands that if it weren't, the best thing to do is to cut ties with them after everyone graduates. Then, one of the boys wonders what will happen to their errand boy once Young graduates, and he refers to, for Rum, she would have died in the first round. So, she thanks him again for his help. Then, she changes the subject and comments that the rice cakes the boys have look delicious. However, Rong says that if she eats it, she'll gain a lot of weight, but Aaron still feels bad for refusing since they went to all the trouble to do her this kindness. So, Ryun, he tells her to forget about it because, in his opinion, the boys probably wanted something from her. Then, she comments that the player must have killed 100 goblins to survive, and this surprises her, as he went through the same thing they did, and acts as if nothing bad happened. However, Ron states that killing 100 goblins isn't a difficult task, and for him, only an idiot wouldn't be able to do that. However, Arin reflects that Ryung was only able to kill the enemies with ease because her skill is very useful, but she still knows that he isn't as good as the Black Reaper, because that boy was so good that he made her feel sorry for the goblins, and with that, she understands that if the Reaper were on her side, she would be able to survive the second round. Moreover, Aaron knows that he only survived this time due to luck. The second round, however, could be entirely different. And well, on January 31st, Rio returns from the bank, but he says he didn't make as much profit this time around, because the money he obtained was only 15 billion won, and for him, that's not enough. After all, last time he had obtained 17 billion. There. A few chapters ago I said millions, but it turns out that it's actually billions. Then his brother questions whether the bank doesn't suspect him. After all, it's already the 4th time that he's won the lottery. And Rio says that he simply made up a story that he had dreamed about the winning numbers. And regarding the money received, Rio says that he will put everything into Bitcoin, since so far they have already managed to make 150 billion with this kid as a damn poor, depressed wretch, and says he will send him to work even after graduation. And, upon seeing this, his friends feel sorry for the boy and call on a devil investment. And seeing that he already has a lot of money, his brother advises him to withdraw the money so that they don't lose everything. But Rio states that it's not the right time yet. And well, on that day, Han asks for his brother to be careful when he goes to the other world. Then Ru says that everything will be all right, and he reminds his brother about the beating he gave Bantenu, implying that he is strong enough to face anyone from the other world. With that, he tells his brother to go to sleep and promises to be awake early the next morning when he opens his eyes. Then they are teleported to the other world, and some people immediately recognize the Dark Reaper, the player who took first place in the previous round, and, judging by the looks on the players' faces, Rio realizes that everyone has recognized him. Then, suddenly, another angel appears and explains that the previous angel had an accident and was unable to attend. However, she offers to guide them from now on. The angel begins by explaining the Einjänsing Sisteride objective of the second round, which is to select a representative from the region within 3 hours. But one of the players doesn't quite understand what that means, and another player believed they simply needed to kill a few monsters. Noticing their confusion, the angel decided to give a brief explanation, informing them that this round, in fact, had no connection with battles. That is, the mission will end as soon as they choose the region's representative. She explains that by becoming the region's representative, the player will be able to use this authority to forcefully command other humans, and they will do exactly whatever the player wants. After the explanation, the angel informs them that they will receive their voting tickets in 3 hours, allowing them to select the person they want to become the region's representative. At that moment, one of the players asks if the mission will really be just that, and the angel, in person. However, he makes it clear that the boy will carry out whatever tasks he decides until he puts a stop to it, and until then, he will toy with the boy as much as he can. And, speaking of him, one of the friends confirms that they will, in fact, finish the mission simply by voting and can return home immediately afterward. So, the only thing they need to do is discuss amongst themselves for the next 3 hours who will be the region's representative. At this, the players are all happy because they think this is the easiest task so far. Besides that, the region's representative will still win the authority to command. And, seeing that there won't be any fighting, Y gets furious, as he prepared for nothing. But his friend tries to show him the good side of it and explains that the important thing is that they are alive and won't even need to fight. However, Yong Min says that he allocated all his points into strength precisely to be able to show off, and he is angry that he can't do that. Analyzing him, he notices that he has allocated all his points into strength once again, in addition to having obtained a strength rune. Then, he understands that everything is going as before, and all humans will be debating for 3 hours. However, Rio states that trying to be the representative isn't what matters at the moment, because the existence of a main quest inevitably culminates in the existence of extra missions, and the hidden mission in this round is a class promotion. But to achieve that, he needs to reach level 10 as quickly as possible. So, he heads to an area with goblins and defeats the first one. He then ventures deeper into the forest to hunt more goblins, reasoning that where there's one, there are bound to be more. In doing so, he manages to kill 50 goblins and levels up. Checking the timer, he realizes that 30 minutes have passed since he began his goblin slaying, and, so far, he's already reached level 9. But, in addition to that, he still needs to increase his dexterity. He explains that if he had engraved a strength rune on himself, like Yong Min did, it might even be worth increasing his strength. However, he understands that realizes that the errand boy in question was right there. Meanwhile, the game initiates a countdown. Min confirms that, in fact, this is his errand boy, but he notices that there is very difficult to survive by allocating all his points to strength, because no matter how strong a player is, they can't do anything if they can't dodge a fatal hit. So, it's explained to us that players have 4 attributes: strength, intelligence, agility, and luck. Strength increases your physical damage, health, and defense, while intelligence increases magic damage, magic, willpower, and the player's thinking ability. As for agility, it increases attack speed, movement speed, and the chance to dodge. And lastly, luck, which increases the player's chance of landing a critical hit, as well as increasing the chance of obtaining additional items and gold. Then, Rio explains that you shouldn't become dependent on any of these attributes, especially if the player is a Reaper, since they utilize both magical and physical damage. Therefore, the ideal for this class is to increase all of their attributes in a uniform way. And, well, Rio notices someone's presence and comments that this is the first time someone has followed him. At that point, he tells the person to come out and reveal their intentions immediately. Intentions. Then, Errand appears and apologizes for having followed him. Following that, her companion explains that they weren't pursuing him with ulterior motives and asks Ryu not to be angry with them. And, upon taking a closer look at that guy, Ryu believes it to be San Chung, Gyeong Glok's right-hand man. Furthermore, this man is supposedly the eldest son of one of the biggest companies in the country, and has the in-game nickname of Celestial Demon. And Ryu explains that this man is one of the targets, since having Gyeong Glok by his side will improve his growth in several aspects. However, his biggest focus is recruiting the priestess who is with him during the 20th round. So, he remains surprised by this situation, as Ryu didn't expect to encounter Gyeong Glok's right-hand man so early. However, wanting the continuation, and also hype up the video, share it so YouTube knows this is good, spread the word to everyone, and call me up at home asking me to post more of this, because something different about the boy. After all, he starts to stare him down, but his friend holds him back and asks him to go easy on the guy, since it's New Year's. Nong decides to let this insult slide. In addition, he notices that Sanchung is very close to Siren. From this, he deduces that he must be the man who was next to her in the real world. And now that he stops to think about it, Ryu remembers that there actually was a rumor about Guide Unlock sponsoring a celebrity. Then he asks how long they have been following him, and Aaron says that they started following him as soon as they saw him entering the forest, and she, again, apologizes if that irritated him. Then, Ryu asks why they are following him, and Aaron reveals that she is there to make an offer. She wants to cooperate with him. However, Ryu says that cooperation is when both parties help each other. He adds that he wouldn't benefit from allying with them since he is doing very well on his own, so he tells them to stop, making him waste his time with nonsense. And Ryu makes it clear that he has no intention of forming a team with her. At this, Sang-shu says that this boy has a gigantic ego, and Arin comments that Ryu has reasons to be first in the ranking, as his pressure was very intense. But Sang-shu says there is no pressure at all. After all, it's natural for her to be scared of seeing someone pointing a blade. Then, she laments not being able to team up with the top-ranked player, as she had hoped. At that moment, her bodyguard explains that people like that boy are too proud to even consider having allies. Therefore, they would be wasting their time chasing after someone like him. Then, Eren questions whether they should hunt during the remaining time, and Sanchum approves of this idea. Meanwhile, Ryu continues his unrestrained slaughter of goblins and reiterates that he doesn't need to cooperate with anyone, especially when he's busy. After all, the most important thing for him right now is to level up. Then, he encounters 5 gnolls at once, and upon defeating them, he finally reaches level 10 and meets the conditions for the. Furthermore, he's also happy about becoming an adult. Just then, a voice echoes through the air, calling humans funny beings for celebrating the new year without even realizing the problem that's coming. Advancement. So, having reached level 10, he fulfills the requirements for progression. Furthermore, Ryu can also access the store. Basically, this was the extra mission for the second round, which the mission objective was to progress before the vote by acquiring the progression item and then obtaining a class. We're told that people are generally confused when they see the objective of this mission is confusing, as they don't even know where to find the progression item, and although they understand the importance of gaining a class, they don't know where to find the item of progress, as these items are typically obtained after completing special conditions. In the case of warriors, they simply need to increase their strength by at least 10 points and kill 30 monsters within 1 hour. Only then can they acquire the progression item. As for berserkers, they only need to hunt for a certain period while bleeding. And what about the first? Assassins, who are required to successfully stab a monster multiple times. Basically, players need to perform actions related to their class in order to obtain their progression items. Ryo then explains that he originally gained the hunter class because he frequently hunted monsters at the start of the game, but upon discovering the Death Reaper class, he dedicated himself solely to it. So, he takes the opportunity to use his class advancement item and is informed that he won't be able to change classes after using it, meaning he needs to be certain about progressing to the Death Reaper class. However, he presses yes without a second thought. As a reward for progressing, he obtains the Death Reaper rune, which doubles his weapon attack damage during the day, and when used at night, the rune increases his attack speed by 50%. Furthermore, if he remains stationary in one place during the night, the chance of an enemy detecting him is almost 0. Upon seeing this, Y and his friends are confused, and they all say they heard someone speaking. Then, a creature appears, flying in and declaring that they are all fearful. In addition to this rune, he also receives another reward, which is the Death Reaper's scythe. And after completing the bonus mission, he obtains a ticket, 50% daily discount. Furthermore, his rank increases from beginner to apprentice. Then, it's explained to us that in that game, players are divided into 6 ranks, which are the rank, beginner, apprentice, normal, expert, master, and finally, grandmaster. And, in order to reach each of these ranks, the player needs to achieve certain levels. And, as a reward for having, once he reached level 10, he learned a new skill from the Death Reaper class called Death Insignia. This ability creates an insignia that can only be seen by the magic's caster, and also by its target. In addition, the target's remaining health becomes visible when this ability is used, and an additional 100% damage will be dealt to the target whenever the caster attacks. However, the only disadvantage of the skill is that only one enemy can be affected by this spell at any given time, and, well, Ryo discovers that he is also able to equip items of a higher rank, such as the Death Reaper's scythe, a rare ranked item, and, after progressing, he is identified as the first player to advance, and Ryu explains that the first player to being able to do this earned him a neutral ability. In his case, Ryu gained the tracking ability as a reward for his first progression, so he decides to test it right there, and Ryu tries to track Yong Min's location. Then, he discovers that his target is 190 meters away, and a glowing arrow appears at his feet, indicating the path to his target. And, upon analyzing the arrow's trajectory, he realizes that Yong Min is in the forest, which differs from his last attempt, as he was 2 kilometers away before. So Ryu decides to go there, Meanwhile, Seorin falls to the Kata, and ignorant, adding that to this being, humans aren't much different from monkeys in cages. With that, everyone wonders if she's an angel, or part of some New Year's event organized by the broadcasting station, ground while trying to escape the other players. Nissan Chum tells her to keep going, as they will die if they are caught, but she apologizes and says that the spot where the arrow hit her is burning. He theorizes that if she gets hurt in that world, her real-life body will remain intact, as long as she doesn't die. Understanding his point, she says that she will try, bear the pain. However, Wai and his men find them, and Sanchu is furious that he was caught because of Aren, but he understands that his only way out now is to fight. However, Yong Min warns him that this will be useless. After all, they are 4 players. At this, Sanchu asks why they are chasing them. Yong Min makes it clear that they only want the girl behind him. Therefore, the henchmen wonder if that really is Aren. After all, she could be just some random person who wants to be an actress and faked her appearance. But another henchman says he doesn't care about this, because the girl still looks like the actress. Then, Yong Min states that if the old man leaves the girl with them, he will let him run away peacefully. In his mind, he feels tempted to abandon her. After all, he has no desire to die for her. However, the problem with abandoning her is that he would end up disappointing Gyeon Glock if he is unable to protect Eren. At this point, he positions himself for combat and says that Yong and his men are committing a crime. But upon hearing this, Yong bursts into laughter and explains that the laws in that world do not exist. Furthermore, So he isn't even sure if that's really Min's face, and although he's irritated by it, he understands where the men are coming from, and his only option now is to fight, even with his injured body. However, the Reaper, Negro, appears there and asks what is happening. Nielsen Shu explains that those guys are trying to capture Seorin and ambushed them to do so. He asks Rai for help to deal with the Klingstarting. Then, the errand boy feels that this being hasn't changed at all, remaining unpleasant even after appearing 99 times, and she realizes that they are captivated by her beauty situation. But Yong tells the boy to go his own way, as this isn't his problem. So Rai says that it does interest him, as he wouldn't be able to ignore an injured person. At this point, both of them are grateful for the help, but for Ryu, he was only doing it to benefit himself, because if he helps Sanchu, he will make a good impression on Gyeon Glock. What if a rich guy if he owes him a favor, his reward will be much greater. Furthermore, Ryu also doesn't like Yong Min and his friends at all, who threaten to kill him if he gets any closer. Then Yin remembers that he tore apart goblins in an instant and was at the top of the rankings last time. In other words, he is an enemy that no one would want to face, and seeing the look of astonishment on his face, Ryu tells him to say immediately whether or not he wants to fight. At that moment, the man asks if he will let him go if he tells the truth, and Ryu says he'll think about it if he kneels and begs for his life. But upon hearing this, he refuses to humiliate himself in front of his friends and his master. In his mind, the best thing would be to actually avoid fighting the Black Reaper. However, he remembers that he can break a wall with his bare hands alone, so he feels more confident, believing that he can send this Black Reaper flying with a single blow. And with that, he declares that would never kneel before Ryu. With that, he plans to attack him with a swift blow to the face. So, the Grim Reaper puts away his weapon in order to fight Yong Min fairly, since he is unarmed. In a few seconds, Yu disappears and goes straight for his target, but Yong Min tries to land a punch first. However, Yu dodges it and kicks him away. At this point, Yong Min starts cursing him, as usual. Then, Ryu kicks him once more. Following that, he lands multiple blows directly to the face. And, after enduring all of these attacks, Yong Min realizes that Ryu's blows are far stronger than he had anticipated. Meanwhile, however, she makes it clear that she has no intention of getting involved with vermin like humans, which confuses everyone. Then, she realizes that they are capable of hearing her. Then, one of the humans, his men prepare to shoot arrows at Ryu. However, he dodges all of the arrows with ease and cuts Huang's arm clean off. He then collapses to the ground, screaming in agony. At that moment, the other 2 henchmen, they threaten him, saying he won't get out of there unscathed after messing with them. Then, Ryo activates his death badge. He then cuts the leg of another player, and upon reaching the last one, he cuts his arm, armor and all, because the death insignia doubles his damage, making him capable of cutting through any kind of resistant material. And after leaving everyone injured, Ryo feels that it's enough, because his intention isn't to finish them off there. His real objective is to instill fear in them so they never pursue him like before again. Then, one of the henchmen begs to be spared, and Ryo tells him to stop crying. After all, it's not enough to kill him. And, having finished with them, Ryo focuses his attack on Yong Min, who, by the way, was hiding behind a tree. However, he also has his arm severed and starts screaming. At this, Ryo tells him to stop being such a crybaby. He claims that it's nothing compared to what they did to him, and, seeing him act so ruthlessly, Sanchu admires him because he likes people with such a firm stance. Taking this ferocity into account, he believes that Ryu is capable of rivaling the president. He reassures Arene and her companion, saying that those guys won't be able to chase them anymore. Although they are grateful for the help, Arene questions whether those men wouldn't end up dead because of this. And Ryu says, "I don't care about that. After all, even animals are more civilized than those guys." In his mind, he disdains her softness because she shouldn't care about those guys' lives. Then, Sanchu asks why Ryu spared their lives. After all, if they killed someone in that world, he wouldn't face unworthy, flying genocidal being. And immediately after, his head is blown off by the entity. Consequently, Yong questions what is happening, and the angel makes it clear that no human, any punishment in the real world. Upon seeing this, Ryu notes that the guy really acts like Gyeon Glock's right-hand man. So, he responds that he only doesn't kill them because he won't gain any benefit from it. That's right. However, Sanchu disputes this decision, arguing that keeping them alive could lead to future problems, but Ryo insists they won't be a threat. Furthermore, it wouldn't be good to killing them, because the number of participants would decrease if that happened, which in turn would reduce the number of slots available for players who complete the round. Nissan Shu understands that. Ryo's understanding of the game is very different from everyone else's, which makes him stand out among the players. So, he says he understands Ryo's perspective and assures him that he won't pay any more attention to those trash. And with everything settled, Ryo bids farewell, but before he leaves, Sanchu asks him for his account number so he can give him a reward in the real world for having been saved. However, Ryo declines the reward, which perplexes Sanchu, as he didn't expect the Black Reaper to help him without expecting anything in return. So, he says that he will contact Ryo. The president will return to the real world soon. At that moment, he hears Yong Min's groans of pain, but he refrains from killing him because Ryu told him that it wouldn't benefit them at all. Meanwhile, the voting remains fiercely contested. After all, it was predictable that all the players would fight to become the regional representative. Then, two humans are told to stop fighting, and another uses the opportunity to promote themselves. Fight, and then the other uses this to promote themselves. He argues that the altered people are not suitable to be the regional representative, therefore, everyone should vote for him. However, the other human emerges and explains that his father is a member of Congress, which would make him a better candidate to become the representative. But everyone doubts that this is true. At that moment, a guy, inferior, can speak to her in that manner. After all, she is a superior being, and therefore, humans cannot question her about anything. Furthermore, she asserts that any other idiotic human who attempts to gast, known as the Chocomenta boy, tries to calm everyone down, and explains that time is running out, so they should hurry up and vote soon. So, they ask who they should vote. The other player then asks if the boy has a solution for the problem. Then everyone starts looking at him as if he were a god, hanging on his every word. And the boy confirms that he does have a solution. He then reveals that he's been persuading everyone using his rune of persuasion, and explains that when he first obtained the rune, he was disappointed because he couldn't use it against monsters who can't even talk. Until the day came when he finally found a good use for the rune. He was using it to persuade people to release the goblins that they were fighting, so he could finish killing the goblins and steal the loot from the others for himself. And with that, the boy was able to easily kill 100 of these goblins. Furthermore, if the people continue to obey him blindly, he can become the representative of the region without much effort. At this point, he suggests that they choose only 5 people to be candidates, and then they will vote from there. And upon seeing this, everyone accepts the idea. After all, they wouldn't gain anything by constantly asking others to vote for them. So, the Disha boy asks them to recommend people, but recommending themselves is forbidden. And everyone agrees again that he is right to organize the vote this way. And with that, the boy feels like a god for being able to persuade people so easily. And well, everyone is deep in thought about who to vote for, and the boy stays quiet, just waiting for someone to recommend him. After all, he was the one who had that brilliant idea, and therefore, someone would certainly recommend him to be the representative. And no sooner said than done. One of the players recommends him to be a representative, as he seems to be the best. Go against her will, have their head blown off, just like that man, and she infers that since they are inferior humans, they probably don't understand what's happening there. However, she will candidate for the position, as this person should have leadership skills and logical thinking. Furthermore, he was responsible for keeping all the players in line. At that moment, the showy boy comments, asks them for more suggestions, and one of the players raises his hand to recommend the Black Reaper. The boy understands why people are recommending him, since Reaper placed first in the last round. Then, someone recommends the player who came in second place, a player with the nickname Life, a documentary, and another player recommends the person who came in third place, a person with the nickname Black Dragon in my right hand. With that, they have 4 candidates, and because no one else recommends any other players, the boy Chocomenta decides to close the voting with just those 4 candidates. He suggests that all the candidates should give a speech before the vote. Then, he steps forward and begins to make his speech. But one of the candidates, called Life, a documentary, interrupts him, saying that he is talking a load of rubbish. He claims that the boy Chocomenta is certainly used to. People are doing their bidding, but all it takes is for him to say a few persuasive words. So, he makes it clear that the regional representative will not be chosen by him. At that moment, the boy, he uses kind words against him, saying that he shouldn't use such hostile language. He feels that this was enough to persuade him, but the ignorant man continues, aggressive and threatens to kill him. Then, he tries to convince everyone to vote for him, threatening them as well. At that moment, the boy Chocomenta states that he won't achieve anything by talking like that. Then, he stabs him in the throat and threatens everyone again, saying he will kill anyone who doesn't vote for him. And upon seeing this, everyone rebels. But he tells them to come at him if they have a problem with. Explain everything, and as a result, the errand boy feels weary, as he will have to hear the same explanation for the 100th time, literally. And she states that on the first day of each month, for 20, what he did, but everyone remains frozen in their places. So, he attacks everyone, killing them, because impunity is guaranteed in that place, since there are no cameras or police recording him. So, he uses the deaths as a tool of control, forcing everyone to vote for him. He believes that in this way, he can become the regional representative, and then finally be able to kill the Black Reaper, because by doing so, he believes he can secure first place. Meanwhile, Rio continues to kill monsters and reaches level 16, but he remains dissatisfied with the minimal progress during all this waiting. However, he realizes that the frequency of his level diminishes as he levels up. But even so, Rio explains that the upside to all of this is that hunting is now more easy, since he possesses the Reaper rune and the Slaughter rune. And after completing the hunt, Rio gets ready to head to the voting location. And after all the players are summoned to the initial point, Sunchu is shocked to see all those corpses. Soon after, the other players also notice the chaotic scene. At that moment, Rio recognizes the killer as JN, the leader of the John Seek gang and the second in command, best fighter in his district, but unfortunately, his personality leaves much to be desired, and although it would be a good idea to finish him off quickly, he feels that the time is not right to do so just yet. So T approaches him and asks Ryu to become his servant so that he can spare his life. But instead, Ryu orders him to kneel and beg to be allowed to leave in one piece after such audacity, boldness. And upon hearing this, T says that Ryu doesn't understand the situation, because if Ryu becomes the region's representative, T is screwed. However, Ryu stands his ground again and wields his scythe to begin the fight. As a result, Cho despairs when he sees that the boy possesses such a lethal weapon, so he feels like he messed with someone he shouldn't have, but he continues to act tough and refuses to look away from Ryu. You're watching too. So, let's get to it, because I want to cover it until the last chapter. And without any more delay, let's get into this absurd story. And at the beginning of everything, we are told that, all rounds, humans will be spiritually transported to a new dimension, where they will be made to play a game, and there, they will have a task to complete. Specifically, they will Ryu's gaze. Then he realizes that he will have no choice but to fight. However, Ryu does not intend to use his full strength, as he would not gain votes that way, and his goal is to make Chojan sick, to become the representative so he could use him in the third round. Besides, it's about time the angel appeared, and when he arrives, Ryo scorns To and says he was lucky to have survived. Now, however, he advises him not to go around challenging people he doesn't know. Although he was scared half to death, he promises to avenge all that humiliation as soon as he becomes the representative, regional qualifier. Meanwhile, The angel asks everyone if they have already decided who will be the representative, but, looking at that pile of human bodies, the angel deduces that they have done everything except vote. So, she tells them to continue with the voting process. She explains that they simply need to look at the person they want to vote for and think of the word vote. And, if a player takes more than 5 minutes to do so, he will be eliminated from the round and will end up dead. And, as expected, several people look at T and vote for him, but he notices a woman averting her gaze. He calls his attention. He threatens to kill her, but she claims she had already voted for him. Then, the voting time ends, and when the angel reveals the results, the majority obviously voted for Cho. And even with the in victory, he looks back, outraged that 2 guys didn't vote for him, and the angel announces that the player, Life, a documentary, is the regional representative, and with that, he has access to the authority of command to be able to command everyone around him. So, the first thing that comes to his mind is to order all the players to kill the Black Reaper. But, upon further analyzing his skill, he discovers he can only use it 10 times. Furthermore, he cannot control a player with a class, and he can only control 1 player at a time. And the good news informs them that the vote complete the mission given to them, and if they succeed, they can return to reality with a reward. At that point, one of the guys asks what he's talking about, and the other guy responds, "Is not enough to finish the mission, as there is still a hidden mission in this round." But upon hearing this, everyone becomes confused, and when they open the task window, they discover that they need get a class advancement item, and the angel explains that the quest window was programmed to appear this way, only for level 10 players, but one of the players argues that it's impossible. They reached that level despite there being no monsters for them to kill, but the angel points out that there are several monsters in the forest that they haven't checked. However, she attempts to reassure them and reveals that only 80,000 players across all regions have managed to advance to a class by that round, including some players from their region, and upon opening the player mission results window, they discover that the first to advance was the Black Reaper. Everyone there is surprised that the protagonist's class is a Reaper, wondering what kind of class it is, because it seems to be an extremely strong class, and I think that's why he wields such immense strength. And that guy who deserves another beating says what to use. Command authority to force the Black Reaper to kill himself. But who would have imagined that the Black Reaper would change classes at this very moment? And so, the angel announces that in this round, 2 ranks were achieved based on the order of who completed the extra mission first. Then, she reveals all the ranks, and everyone is surprised because the first was Black Reaper, and the second, Heavenly Demon, and those other stupid idiots as well. And she announces that the player who changed class in that region was the Black Reaper. Furthermore, she states that he not only achieved first place in the current region, but in all regions, emphasizing how impressive that is. She adds that his class is unique and even matches his nickname, then asks him to respond, inquiring that she is apparently giving him a chance to live, as long as they complete certain missions. However, she makes it clear that this line of thinking is wrong, as not everyone who completes how he came up with such a nickname, wondering if he knew he would obtain the Reaper class beforehand, but quickly follows up by saying that he couldn't have known he would get a class that matched his nickname. Then she asks if his becoming a Grim Reaper was perhaps destiny. He simply agrees, while the angel seems a little hesitant, and the protagonist thinks that not even the angels know how to obtain the Reaper class, and only know that it's a unique class. And she wonders if this is what they call destiny, finding it interesting to think that there would be a person in that region who would change their classes too much, then asking if he is the one who will not be affected by her command authority. And everyone is surprised that he isn't affected, asking the angel what this means, and she questions whether she should just explain everything, saying that command authority doesn't apply to humans with a class, therefore, the region's representative cannot command the Dark Reaper as they please, and that's what it means. Also, there are only 10 chances to use their command authority, so, just because he is a regional representative, it means he possesses limitless power. Everyone is surprised that her authority can only be used 10 times, assuming that's how it is, and so the leader there becomes irritated because of that damned angel. I shouldn't have told them that. Then the angel declares that they will give the Black Reaper, who was the first to obtain his class, the reward he deserves, snapping his finger. Then he receives several system notifications congratulating him, stating that he completed the mission as rank 1 in the current region, as well as the mission at rank 1 in all regions, which as a reward for achieving rank 1 in that region, he was rewarded with a choice of low-rank, rare armor, and also, across all regions, an additional reward. And that rare reward includes missions will survive, and she explains that only half of the participants, ranked by order of completion, will have their lives spared. However, she won't take all of them. Some armor options: the medieval knight's metal armor, the expert hunter's leather armor, and the wizard's well-ventilated robe. And the protagonist says he doesn't even need to consider it, because the first option is too heavy, and the third option offers almost no defense. So, he chooses the expert hunter's leather armor, and in that other chest, there are 3 more items. The first is a 3 times XP buff, maintained for round 3. The second is 3,000 gold, and the third is information about round 3. And the protagonist thinks that, because there are so many monsters in round 3, he obviously needs the XP buff. Then, the ring says that now that the rewards have been distributed, they can return home, sending everyone back to reality. And she says that the next round 3, will be a lot of fun, saying she can guarantee it with a huge grin on her face. And so, the result of completing round 2 is that a large number of people survived and are still playing, and it says that the soul will soon be transferred to the body in the existing dimension. Then, that arrogant guy wakes up, terrified and shaking all over, and thinks that his arms are still there. And, as expected, as long as you don't die, you return with a normal body, but he's still scared and says he'll never mess with the Black Reaper again. So he thinks he doesn't even want to get involved with that damn heartless guy again. Aaron's manager tells her that she worked hard again, but she asks what he did, saying that he was the one who worked hard there, thanking him for protecting her, saying that it's to be expected, as he is her manager and bodyguard. And the girl agrees, but says she wants to thank the Black Reaper, again, asking if there is any way to do so. And he says that they don't know what he really looks like, so it's impossible to track him down. And it also seems that the Black Reaper doesn't want to reveal his. For the missions, only humans between the ages of 15 and 29, from all over the planet, are eligible to participate in the missions. Then, the task boy expresses his frustration at having to repeat the same identity, and the girl is surprised that he doesn't want to, and he says he asked for his bank account number so he could compensate him. However, considering the way he immediately refused, the Black Squad knows that her real identity can be tracked using her account number, which makes the girl a little worried. So, the manager suggests that if she wants to show her gratitude, he asks, why doesn't she meet him in the next round and give him an item? The girl understands and likes this idea, thinking it's a good one, and says she needs to think a little more about how to reward him. So, he tells her to get some rest today, and they will look at this again tomorrow. So, he leaves, and as he goes downstairs, he receives a call from President Ma. He speaks to Sector Chief Sunshow. He notes that the president hasn't gone to sleep yet, and he says he was drinking as soon as he got back. And Sunshow says he saw the result of the resolution, congratulating him for changing the class to Black Knight. But he says it was nothing, asking what happened on his side. And Sunshow says that he and Aaron were able to reach level 8, and, along the way, due to their injuries, they were unable to hunt, but he is surprised by the extent of these injuries. And one of them says he's going to report about that incident, asking if now would be a good time. He says it has to do with the Black Reaper, and so the president orders him to go to the hotel, as he wants to hear the details in person. He says he will be there in 20 minutes and gets in his car. As he gets into the car, someone is watching him, and it's Prota himself. He says that, as expected, he's going to Magan Glock. 10 minutes earlier, he is with his brother in the room and receives a notification telling him to think of the face of the target he wants to track and say their name. He immediately thinks of Sunshow. The name and face were matched, and the location is being tracked. Missions for the 100th time. Meanwhile, an older man celebrates because he won't need to participate in the game, but, upon seeing how happy the man is, one of the young men confronts his brother is surprised that he is only 9 meters from the target, noting that it's very close, since he is still up there, on the rooftop. He notices that the location is changing quickly, and, judging by the speed, he must have taken the elevator. He wonders where he's going so early in the morning, speculating if he might be heading to Maganglock. So, he goes out to check. It turns out he was right after all, and it was a good idea to track him as soon as he got back. So, he heads out to follow him. Meanwhile, Ma notices the shadows are shrouding the moon, and it's the perfect night for tailing someone. However, he decides to hold off for now since the report comes first. He's curious and thinks about the Black Reaper again, wondering what kind of player wouldn't know about him, especially someone who achieved the top rank in both the first and second rounds. He feels like something related to that top rank is giving him a bad feeling about this. wondering if he might have started a fight with his subordinate, because if that's the case, he can't just sit idly by. Messing with his right-hand man is the same as messing with him. Challenge, and no matter who it is, if they block his path, he can't ignore them, even if it's the number 1 ranked player. I don't think this will go well, huh? If the guy is rank 1 and you're trying to take him on, it's going to be a problem, but I'm here to watch the circus burn. I want to see you go after him. And then, we notice that Sancho has arrived. As he calls out, he asks the sector head to just come in and sit down, saying it's good to see him again. And Sancho says he's only there once again because of him, but the other guy says he didn't do anything, since they aren't even in the same region. And Sancho continues to brown-nose him relentlessly, one thing after another. And then, the other guy says that he certainly knows how to flatter others, and tells him to sit down again. And Sancho starts to say that it's not. Sir, after all, he perceived it as a provocation. Nong tells him to calm down, unless he wants to end up with his head blown off just like that other guy. And well, the creature explains that the number of flattery, and that he really admires him, but then he changes the subject, congratulating him on his survival. Then, the other guy questions what he's talking about, asking what he means by the second round. It was pretty easy, but Sancho says that he would also like to congratulate him on his progress, though he claims it was pure luck. Sancho counters that some say luck is also a skill, and achieving second and third place in the rankings across all regions is no easy feat, and there is no greater honor for him than serving someone like Ma. And he continues to become more and more fawning, and Ma notices that there must be something he wants, considering how much he's flattering him, urging him to speak his mind and asking if there's anything he'd like to ask. And so Sancho gets straight to the point, asking if he can inquire about how to obtain an advancement item. So Ma says it's no big deal, claiming it just appeared while he was hunting monsters, but he is actually hiding some things, as he actually obtained it thanks to the Black Knight rune. And so, the angel spoke to everyone, asking them to say inventory to open it and see what's inside, because she prepared a gift. And so Ma, now known as the Celestial Demon, opens his inventory and sees the Black Knight rune. Its effect is to increase all of his attributes and envelop his weapon in a black aura that damages his enemies and allows him to automatically advance to the unique Black Knight class upon reaching level 10. He is surprised by this, because advancing to Black Knight means he will gain even more power. He thinks he got lucky in the first round by obtaining such a strong item as the random rune. However, he says that he cannot reveal all of his information, not even to the employee who he considers his family, because a person can change at any moment, and that is human nature. And he talks to the head of the sector, saying that they will change the subject, asking, players would be more than 1,800,000. And after that entire explanation, they are sent to a blank space. And the angel explains that before the spiritual transference begins, they will need to who hurt him, wondering if perhaps it was the Black Reaper, but Anne says no, stating that, in fact, it was he who saved his life. And Ma is surprised by this, asking him to tell you the details. And after learning everything, he finds out that he almost died because of some bullies who were after that actress, which Sancho confirms is exactly the case. Well, if the Black Reaper hadn't appeared, they could have lost their lives, since Miss Errand survived thanks to him, but suffered psychological damage significant enough to make her quit working in the entertainment industry. He becomes pensive and says that not only did he almost lose his subordinate, but his work was nearly wasted. Then asking what happened to them, he learns that they were killed, but he points out that even though the Black Reaper inflicted pain as great as death, he didn't kill them. And a question from El Chao recounts that he said nothing good would come of killing them, since decreasing the total population also decreases the number of survivors. And so he notes that he's not wrong, but who knows, that they will try in the future. But he thinks that, thanks to the Black Reaper, his subordinate and his possession remain intact, and it seems he owes the guy one, saying that he will make it up to him. So, he says that he mentioned it, but the Black Reaper said it wasn't necessary, and simply left. And so, he is surprised that he refused the compensation, wondering if he is afraid of having his identity exposed, noting that this guy is very careful. And so, he says that if he meets him in the next round, Sancho should express his gratitude, as he is truly grateful that he saved them both. And he says that he will be sure to pass this message on, but tells him to keep an eye on the Black Reaper, so they can check if they can help him in any way, as he knows very well that create a body, and she advises them to create their bodies responsibly, as they will only have one chance to do so. Is greater than me. As a Souls-like player, I would end up looking like a pot-bellied, bald, dwarf. He's not the type to leave a debt unpaid, and Sancho agrees, but Ma reminds him that he almost forgot to ask something important, asking him what the nicknames of those bullies were. So, elsewhere, the protagonist watches him head in to give his statement, noticing the bright ceiling lights, and thinking that Sanjaldade must be important to go there directly. Guanglog. Once he snaps back to reality, he finds the late hour a bit overwhelming. He says he has confirmed his destination and will return home, because staying there will only raise suspicions. Still, he's surprised that a celebrity sponsored by Guion Glock lives in the same building as him, and says he should thank his brother, because if they hadn't gone to distribute cakes, they wouldn't have met her. He never would have discovered that Sancho and Aaron are connected, and developing their relationship as neighbors should help him gain Guion Glock's trust later. And even though he needs to be sure whether or not to take it to the 20th round, he comments that the Guion Glock's Black Knight round is just as good, which could be seen as cheating. However, this rune still has its downsides, such as being forced to become a Black Knight. But the worst drawback is that to use the Dark Aura, because the power of the Black Knights requires one to wield a special type of mana, called Black Mana. And this Black Mana cannot be obtained through normal means, as it is a skill that suits someone with psychopathic tendencies, like Guion Glock. After all, he is truly ready to kill anyone to become stronger. He acknowledges that it could be dangerous to have someone like that as a companion, but for now, he will keep him as a candidate and use him when necessary, as he has several other talented individuals besides him, and he, bearded. So, the errand boy customizes his body in the same way as before, and sets his nickname as Black Reaper. And after that, they are sent to a different location, and he remembers each of these individuals, thinking that he should start working on this as soon as the sun rises. And so, on another day, someone is in a convenience store questioning what they should do, because the revenue will drop by half if things continue this way. Then, a girl arrives, calling for her father, and he sees her. She asks him why he's sighing so loudly. He tells her that lottery ticket sales the lottery has been suspended. She asks, why? Did this happen out of nowhere? And he replies that the government gave a reasonable excuse, but apparently it's because of the players, since they don't know what kind of skill the players might be using. And she remembers the news, and he says that things are really difficult due to the bills and work expenses, wondering what he should do. But the girl tells her father not to worry, because she's graduating soon, so she'll start helping him out. But then she thinks that maybe it would be better to get a part-time job for now, but he tells Jigsaw that she shouldn't worry about the money, saying that she needs to focus on her studies, since her grades are good, and asks if she isn't going to college, because her dream was to become a doctor. But she talks to her father, telling him that she gave up on that dream and asking if school really matters in this situation, and he says that she is right, because money isn't the biggest problem, since if everything goes wrong, she could die in the next round, and her mind has been out of place these days because of that, and she apologizes to the girl. She becomes worried about her father, but tells him that he doesn't need to apologize, because it's not his fault, but he still feels guilty, and she says that she's fine, because she survived the second round, and even got a class, and he is surprised by this. The girl shows him her class, Heals You. He questions what that is. She says it's a skill. Humans have the desire to live, because if that weren't the case, they wouldn't have gone through all that trouble to get there. And after 99 attempts, he finally reached his goal. Round 20. Explains that he has been using the same appearance since his 12th attempt, and he already feels like this is his real body. And well, the other players begin to arrive, and everyone focused solely on beauty, called Blessing, and she got it after obtaining the buffer class. She applies a small improvement to his attributes, and says that it has an effect of invigorating normal people. Look, if you're with regarding the money problem, I have to tell you that you're missing out on a golden opportunity, because there's no shortage of people with money to burn on businesses like this. People who will bet on any crazy scheme, any ridiculous business out there, just to feel better about themselves. You'd be a millionaire if this actually existed in real life. So, he thinks her ability is incredible, because her body is much improved, and the girl says she'll use her ability on him frequently, telling her father to cheer up, and he says he's going to test weapons using it. Someone then arrives, and it's the protagonist, entering the establishment. But then she remembers that she's seen this client somewhere before, and the girl starts whispering about the protagonist, and her father says that he's the winner who managed to get first place, with 100 tickets. So he arrives and speaks to the man, asking if they happen to remember him saying that he bought 100,000 lottery tickets, and the old man remembers, saying yes, and asking, why is he there? He says that first, he would like to apologize. Then the man asks why he is doing this out of nowhere. He says he saw the news and, because he came in first so many times, the sale of lottery tickets stopped, and he apologizes if he caused any financial damage to the store. But then the man tells him he shouldn't worry about it, saying it's not his fault. Because it's not like they're going to starve because they can't sell lottery tickets anymore. But he says it still doesn't feel right. And since he feels that they have been affected by his actions, he would like to give him that as compensation, even if it is just a little. The man asks what that is. Then Pronto says, it's 10 million WS. And the old man, aesthetics, just like the previous times. And the chore boy thinks it's a very stupid thing to do. After all, they should prioritize their skills, because, being very attractive, almost blurts out that he doesn't need it, asking him to take it back, but he tells him to keep it, please, because since the problems he caused are undeniable, he needs to do it. Something, and says that he is leaving now, so the man doesn't know what to do, asking him to come back, wondering how he can accept so much money. But at that moment, the girl, she talks to her father, saying she will run after him until he returns the money, so he tells her to do it. The girl runs after the protagonist, asking him to wait a moment and excusing herself, and so he turns around, and she speaks to Roman, asking if that is his name, and the protagonist asks her name, so she is surprised that he doesn't know her, saying that she is Minjol. They are in the same class. He also doesn't know that, and she asks if he is telling her that he doesn't even know that they study in the same class. He apologizes, saying that he's not very good with faces, but inside, he thinks this is a huge lie, because Minjol is in the same class as him, is the daughter of the convenience store owner, and she has the unique buffer class. So he remembers her very well, because he discovered, after his first regression, that she was in the same class. He was quite surprised that this kind of fate existed, since the reason behind him meeting Mjoli for the first time, under the guise of a mere coincidence, was to bring her over to his side. And so, the girl invites him to talk somewhere else. And Prota agrees, and they go to a park to sit together. Then she tells him to take the money, but Prota asks if it isn't the money he gave her, and she says that she can't accept that much money out of nowhere, asking him to take it back. And Prota thinks that 10 million is an amount that might be too large for some people to just give away. He gave this amount knowing that they wouldn't accept it, since no matter how difficult they will certainly be the first ones targeted, and if they die in that world, they will also die in the real world. I said that, making the bald, bearded dwarf was the best option. Circumstances, he is the type of person who doesn't like to be in debt. Then she tells him to take it quickly, because her hand is starting to hurt, but he still refuses, saying that, as he told the owner earlier, this money is his way of apologizing for the damage he caused to the store, saying it's the least he can do to ease his conscience, but she tells him that it's far too much money. However, the protagonist says that no matter how large the sum is, he would really like her to accept it, because otherwise, he will feel bad and keep thinking about it. But she continues to refuse, because it's a lot of money, and the protagonist explains that's why he's handling it, telling her to tell the store owner that it's not a lot of money for him, so he should accept it without feeling guilty. So, she wonders if he's always been so insistent, asking him why he's doing this. He asks if they are finished with their conversation, because if they are, he needs to leave, but the girl asks him to wait, explaining that 10 million is a lot and she will only accept 1 million to start, asking if that would be all right, and he questions if she thinks she can decide that, telling her to ask the owner from the store, and she mentions that her father will definitely be uncomfortable with that amount of money. He is surprised and asks if the owner of the store is her father, to which she confirms. He says he will be coming around more often, since this is quite surprising, and she replies that it's surprising to her too, because the first place lottery winner is a classmate, and he's quite taken aback by the way she addressed him. Then she asks if they really didn't know they were in the same class. After all, she knew as soon as he walked into the store, and he apologizes. Again, explaining that he's really terrible with faces. But then he asks if this is the first time they've spoken like this, and the girl confirms, adding that it must be the first time that. Then, Yomi appears there as well, and the boy notices that he made a muscular body, like he did last time. Then, the angel returns and notices that everyone seems to be very happy with he's hearing her name, so he apologizes, but the girl blushes, and he thinks that, even though he feels bad about pretending not to know her, he needs to do it so that she can feel interest in him. And she mentions that she had said earlier her name is Manoli, and that she's in the same class as him, showing her face very close to his, and asking if he'll remember now. He says that he will definitely remember, in a super cute panel of the two of them. Is it time already? It's early. It's too early to ship them. Is it too early to launch a shirt with this print? Oh, guys, I'm going to open a store. While the girl is acting all giddy, she says that she just had the biggest reality check of her life, wondering what the hell she is doing, introducing herself to a classmate when graduation is right around the corner. However, the protagonist says that at least now he knows, and that it's not as if they can't continue talking to each other after graduation. And speaking of which, he asks for her to give him her number, and the girl starts to feel like things are escalating quickly, asking if he really wants her number. He says yes, asking if there's something wrong with that. That's him saying he doesn't think there's anything strange about asking a classmate for her number, and the girl agrees, asking him to give her his, but her ears turn bright red. Then, as she hands it over, she becomes increasingly nervous. He tells her it's fate that they met like this. He adds that they'll be talking often, and she simply agrees. He says he needs to leave now because he has something urgent he needs to do, leaving the girl behind. But then, as he walks away, she notices that he didn't take the envelope or the money and realizes he wasn't able to return it. But she doesn't really care much about that, because the thought of him asking for her number out of nowhere is overwhelming, saying that her heart is beating faster and faster, because even though she knows he asked her to, new avatars that they created, and she notes that there are around 1.8 million people there. Therefore, they are participants who were in there. Then, one of the guys questions whether there really are that many. Be his friend, she likes Rio. Guys, it's official. The first ship of the series is taking off, son. This is really good. I'm already enjoying it so much. A story with romance is action-packed. Oh yeah, he's in the top tier of my favorites. And she mentions that they initially met by chance because the protagonist was being bullied. She was surprised and ended up calling the police, wondering if it was out of pity or because, as the one who reported the incident, she felt responsible for seeing it through to the end. She followed him to make sure he would get home safely. But when she saw Yong Min working as if nothing had happened, she realized he was much stronger than he appeared, and from that point onward, she started developing an interest in him. However, she couldn't muster the courage to speak to him, and afterward, her feelings for him intensified so much that she couldn't even approach him. After all, who would have imagined they'd meet like this? And she'd declare that she'll be brave this time. This is a chance given to her by the gods. She can't pretend she doesn't know him after. Receive 10 million ounces. Then she wonders if she should invite him to dinner, and the protagonist, in his room, starts looking at his phone and exchanging messages with the girl, saying that now they're even. She thinks he owes her something, and immediately offers to pay for lunch, which is a good sign for him, even though he's a complete idiot. The guy regressed 99 times, but still doesn't know that the girl likes him. Yes, my friend, it's so obvious, but at least things are unfolding. Let's see what happens. He says it will be easier to make her his ally if he becomes her friend naturally. Maybe if he were her husband, it would be even easier. So he says he's going to help Julie and take her to the 20th round, and so he goes to talk to his brother who is sitting in the room. People there, because his impression is that there are far fewer people. Then, the angel calls him ignorant again, and she explains that the people are scattered across several planes with other angels, and the div asks his older brother where he is going, and his brother says he is going to meet a friend, and the boy asks if it's a girl. But the protagonist questions, why? If not, then when? He can meet girls and says he's going out to eat, so he shouldn't skip lunch. And his brother just agrees, staying behind and surprised, thinking no way his brother is going to the date. And he actually goes to the steakhouse with the girl and asks her if she likes steak, and the girl is all flustered. He asks again, and although she agrees, she almost can't speak. He just tells her to eat a lot, and the girl just agrees, as she's even more surprised that she's eating alone with Yong Min, saying that it's a great day for her. But while they are devouring the food, she thinks the atmosphere is getting a little awkward, and she has to say something. So she thinks she needs to be brave, asking how he won the lottery, saying that he said he won 4 times in a row. So he says he lives off results in a dream, which isn't even a lie, right? And she is very surprised, asking how much he has earned thanks to this dream. And he says, who believes he's earned enough to never worry about money again, but now he has to worry about his life itself. And so, she's surprised, and says that she was really wanting to know about it, asking how the first round went and if killing goblins wasn't difficult. He says it was, and that it took centuries to achieve. So, she asks what region he's in. He says his ends in 5, and she says hers ends in 7. It's a shame they won't see each other there. However, the protagonist thinks that she doesn't need to be disappointed, because of course they will meet, as the regions merge, as the number of survivors drops. so she asks his level. He says he's at 10, and she's, where they are, is simply one of those planes. So, before they begin, she needs to give them some additional explanations. In doing so, she asks them to visualize the phrase, attribute window, and upon doing so, surprised, and also asks if he already has a class, but he says not yet, and she says she was incredibly lucky. I got a class change item, and your class is called. The buffer, and the protagonist pretends not to know what a buffer class is, even asking what it means, as if buff classes don't dominate every game, and luckily she happens to be a buffer this time. And the girl, he asks if he wants to see it, because she has a buff called Blessing, which increases all attributes. So he asks to see it, and the girl casts the buff on him. Then it says that all of his attributes increased by 50%, and the duration is 3 hours. Then he thinks, as expected of a unique class, those effects are quite good. What do you mean, quite good? Are you crazy? That's incredibly overpowered. Man, I think in most games, any item that gives you 50% to all attributes is extremely overpowered, and you're calling it quite good? You've got to be kidding me. And he tells her that it is incredible, and the effectiveness of the skill will improve when she reaches the maximum level, which means it will increase by 100%. But that's only when she reaches the maximum level, but it's still great that he might have been bluffing there, since he wanted to meet her for that very reason to begin with, as the reward he received from the extra class change mission was a bag of gold. Random. And as the name implies, it's a bag that provides a random amount of gold, which is influenced by the luck stat. In short, the higher your luck stat, the more gold you receive. Then, he tells her that this is really great, thanking Julie. She tells him to just let her know if he needs a buff, because with the cooldown, it doesn't cost her anything. He says he understands, asking if there wasn't anything else she wanted to tell him. The girl remembers and says that she should have brought this up earlier, thanking him for the 10 million. Because her father also, this means they can access their data. And, in the case of the Black Reaper, his real name is Rai Ming, a beginner-ranked player. Furthermore, both his skills and his rune are asked him to thank him. Furthermore, she says that she will pay him back, no matter what. He asks if that was what she wanted to say, and says that he already told her not to worry about it. She says, if he doesn't want money, then maybe he wants something else, and she considers getting something for the boy. He asks what it is, and she says she obtained it while hunting, and since he doesn't want money, she at least wants him to accept this gift, saying that she's giving it to him from the heart, so he shouldn't even think about rejecting it. Then, after receiving the gift and finishing eating, they leave the restaurant. Julie says that lunch was very good, and says that they will meet again, and he says, of course, telling her to take care of herself and stay safe in this round as well. And the girl says that they will survive and meet again. And after that, he goes to a park and opens his inventory along the way, taking out that item she gave him, which is a low-quality purple magic crystal. And Prota is surprised that he got this from her, saying that he still doesn't know what it does, since the explanation is brief, but as soon as reaching level 20 will make you realize just how precious an item like that is. So, he mentions that the combination function unlocks when the player reaches level 20, and by using it, you can combine a weapon with a magic crystal, and additional options can also be added. There are 7 colors of crystals: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Red is for damage, orange is for strength, yellow increases luck, green increases speed, blue increases intelligence, indigo reduces high damage, and finally, that purple crystal, which is the rarest among them all and has the lowest probability of appearing, increases all attributes. He was lucky to have obtained this without doing anything, but he remembers that his luck stat in missing, which makes him want to sigh. And, well, the angel advises them to get stronger, because if they survive until the end and complete round 20, in addition to being released, they will also have a real life is quite high. So, he says he will use that magic crystal when he reaches level 20. He mentions that he should open the bag of gold before the buff ends. But before that, he says that he has to start increasing his attributes with the slaughter rune. Then, he catches 100 small worms, since the slaughter rune increases his stats by 1% each time he kills a target. This also counts for insects, and it only needs to be a living being. And there are no insects in the other world, so he has no choice but to kill monsters there. Unfortunately, this isn't the case in the real world, and he apologizes to those things while stepping on them all. And so the count gets closer and closer to 100 until the number is reached. Opening the attribute window, he sees his luck is very high. He notes that his 15 points in luck have become 45. He can expect good results now. And so he opens his inventory, taking out the random bag of gold, and he comments that his luck is as high as it can be for a while. So, he uses it, wondering when he'll get a good result, since he can have the same attributes and get a different amount of gold each time, depending on how. Lucky for him, it used to range from 3,000 to 6,000, so he's surprised to see this time's result. I see that the boy almost doesn't believe it, because he got 9,999. He gets 99 gold, and he is more than happy to have gotten the maximum amount, thinking that receiving the blessing was worth it. So his total gold is now 16,249, and it should be more than enough to get an epic item. The item he needs will be released in 2 weeks, so he'll save it for now. And he comes home talking, and the boy goes to his brother asking how the meeting went. Prota is questioning what he is talking about, and Home asks if he wasn't on a date with a girlfriend. Wish granted. However, only the first ones to complete all the missions will have these rights. And finally, she asks them to visualize the word inventory and look at the gift, and Prota tells him to stop talking nonsense, asking what the boy ate for lunch. He says he ordered black bean noodles, and he says he should have ordered something better, but the boy asks what's wrong with the black bean noodles, wondering if he has any idea how much he wanted to eat them, and the protagonist thinks that it really hasn't even been a month since they were almost dragging each other. Speaking of his poverty, he thinks about his Bitcoin investments, which have increased by 150 million, and, just like in previous attempts, it's likely to plummet quite a bit within 2 weeks. So, he'll cash out soon, but before that, he should get a driver's license, and so he goes for the written exam right away, wondering how many times he's taken this test now, since he should just do it and leave. So, he finishes quickly, and catches the attention of the instructor nearby, who asks him what's wrong, but then he notices that he got a 95, even though he didn't stay long, and the protagonist thinks it's kind of obvious. It only took him 4 days to get his driver's license. Wow, it must be so. Well, I spent 6 months on it, attending more classes than I could have possibly learned the content of in just 3 nights. And then he rubs his driver's license in his face, from his brother, and he says that his driver's license is better than anyone else's. But then he thinks about how many years have actually passed, how old he is now, and says that after getting his license, he immediately bought a supercar, a Lamborghini Aventador, and he had no problem choosing it, since it was also his car in previous attempts. Arriving at the dealership, he asks how long it takes to import one directly, and the seller says that if he orders today, it will take about a month, and the protagonist says, "That sounds good," saying, "Last round." And when he analyzes his opponents, he notices that there are 20 golems, and this time, 2 of them are huge. He notices that the goblins are guarding a door behind them, and the only certainty that she left for them inside. Then, Yong Min sees the random rune fragment, and she explains that the item is a one-time use item that can only be used while they are at level 1, that he'll sign right now. And so the seller is overjoyed, because he's reached his goal for 3 years straight, and 2 weeks later, the time finally comes, because it's time for him to withdraw his money, Bitcoins. And so the brother asks if something good happened, because he's smiling like that, and he says he just sold all his Bitcoins. But then the boy asks, insisting, how much he made. He says it's 300 million, and Wong almost doesn't believe it, saying that he only won 60 million in the lottery and turned it into 300 million. And Prota is all happy, and one says that he should have stopped when he was investing in Bitcoins, and to think he achieved so much is unbelievable. But Prota says he didn't imagine it would turn into all this either, as 280 million was the maximum in his last attempt. So the boy asks if he's going to stop now, and Prota says, of course, but says it's time to start investing in stocks. The boy starts spitting out all that chocolate and talks to his brother, questioning what he's thinking, since he doesn't know anything about stocks. But Prota tells him not to worry, as he saw everything in a dream, and the little brother is surprised that he had another premonitory dream. He says that this time he asks which stocks to buy, and the dream tells him that if he buys now, he will hit the jackpot, and the boy doesn't even doubts it anymore, just telling him to do whatever he wants. However, the protagonist says he doesn't blame him for being nervous, but he still says he knows the future, and that the company he's going to invest in is a company that is ranked 85th on the Nasdaq, which is worth approximately 900 million. It's the Hevelin Demon Consulting Corporation. And the Hevelin Demon Consultancy is a company under the control of Guang Glock, but he hasn't reached his peak yet, and will develop a special system around the 4th round, growing immensely, and there is no reason not to invest, knowing how much it will. Then, she instructs them to hold the rune in the palm of their hand and visualize the word use in order to activate the rune. And upon doing so, Min is surprised by what he has obtained. The angel then observes that some grow, and if he manages to get very involved and gain some operational control, he will have a huge benefit, being one of the main investors. And first, he will invest 280 million and acquire 31% ownership. But while he's doing this, Hun starts praying quietly next to him, begging that the dream please be right again, and the protagonist notices that the boy is completely foolish over there, and he says that, in any case, this part is resolved, and now he just needs to buy the items. So, at midnight on the same day, he opens the store and says he saved the gold for that day. He explains that you can buy common items and skills as long as you have gold. It couldn't be more convenient, but they are all of common rank, and it's not as if there's no way to buy rare and epic items. And today's item is a function where he can buy a random item that changes daily. And it's usually difficult to get the item you want, since you never know what item will be available. But that's not a problem for him, since he already knows what's coming. And today is the day the rare item he needs appears, the skeletal necklace. He mentions that the necklace he needs to buy for 4,600 euros is right there. He explains that it's an item that boosts intelligence and attack speed, and it's quite cheap considering its effects. And since the item he wants is there, it's time to use that thing. So he opens his inventory to use the 50% discount badge he earned by completing the progress mission. And if he buys that necklace, and then applies the 50% discount, the price will drop to 2,300 gold. However, he notices that he still has a lot of gold remaining. Initially, he was planning to buy a set of regular items with the remaining gold. But if he gathers another 6,000 gold, he can purchase another common skill. And a common skill is better than equipment. So he figures he needs to find a way to earn 6,000 gold as soon as possible. People seem to be dissatisfied with what they received. However, she tells them that they must be content with whatever they have been given, because this initial step is a test of their luck. Before, he realizes that, fortunately, Round 3 has a large number of monsters. Time passes, and the 1st of March 2023 arrives, and everyone is brought back into the game, as the inevitable day. Once again, it has come to this. And so, they are dragged into yet another city. They realize they are in another world again, thinking that this time, it isn't a forest, and they wonder where they are. And they notice that the buildings are destroyed. It appears to be a village, but it's nothing like a village, it's just in ruins at this point. And so, they look around, as the village is surrounded by walls and murals, and they wonder if, this time it's an invasion, but they notice that there's a crystal in the middle. Still, they don't know what they're going to do in a place like that during the 3rd round, and the protagonist says that the place isn't familiar, and everyone seems anxious. And the only one who is relatively normal is Juhan Seo, and he observes Juhan Seo from a distance, and everyone asks if that isn't a regional representative, and they confirm that it is. That's right, because there was a documentary, and they said he was a gang leader, adding that he even waved a sword and threatened them to vote for him, and mentioning that the Black Reaper, it should be him as the representative, not that murderer. But then one of them whispers that he's speaking too loudly, since he still has command authority. But the boy asks who. He activates it, saying it can only be used 10 times, so there's nothing to worry about. And then he tells everyone to shut their mouths, cursing everyone there. But they question why he's cursing. But he's acting like people can't curse him. Then he asks which of those bastards is talking shit, and everyone pretends they weren't. So he thinks he knew this would happen, because if that damned angel had kept quiet, none of this would be happening. But then a boy arrives, introducing himself to Jonsek. Then he notices that it's Huang Yoming, asking what. After everyone imprints the rune, she snaps her fingers to begin the real show. At that moment, a window displaying round 1 appears, and the objective of the first mission is for each participant to defeat 100. What he's doing. And Yoming says that he came to greet him, and he asks if he's family, but the boy says not yet, saying that he's a 20-year-old who wants to become a gangster. Then he asks what the boy is talking about, questioning if he wants to become a gangster and what kind of insane idiot he is. Yong Min responds that he is his role model, saying that the Jonsek gang is the one he wants to join, but the man asks why Yong Min is acting this way. Yong Min says he wants to serve him for the rest of his life, begging him to accept him. And so, from you, stating that he's seen a lot of lunatics in his life, but this is the first time he's seen a crazy person like this. However, he thinks he liked the enthusiasm, telling the boy to get up and asking if there is something wrong with his eyes, questioning if he doesn't know that his reputation has been ruined, but he still asks if the boy will still serve him. And the man replies that he doesn't care about that, because he respects him and, as long as he accepts him, he doesn't care what anyone thinks. Then he says he liked the answer, agreeing with him, and saying that he will take responsibility and to teach, and the crazy guy starts thanking him, saying it's an honor. But everyone notices that he teamed up with the crazy guy, just like in real life, as if in a documentary asking if he's insane, but they think they really are. Flour from the same bag, sold together. And so the protagonist notices that Josik allied with him that time too, which is good, because he already knows how things will play out. But then, the angel appears out of nowhere, asking if all the humans have gathered yet. So, she looks at everyone, saying that there are fewer than 90 people there today. And so they notice that there are fewer people, questioning what happened, and the system sends them a message about the third round, and the main mission is to protect the relic for 3 hours. They notice that there are actually fewer people this time, asking how this, goblins, and upon entering the first scenario, some players feel as though they are in a virtual reality game. Consequently, they begin to formulate theories that they were kidnapped to be used as a happened. And the angel says that it's impossible for newly arrived humans to die suddenly, and it looks like they fought against each other in the real world, and she wouldn't be so worried about as they fight each other. But one of them asks them to wait, telling everyone to look at the number of participants who can finish that round, which is 1,225 people. He notes that the number has been reduced by almost. A fourth person speaks to the angel, saying this is very strange, and asking if it isn't a mistake. Aang starts laughing, questioning this error, and asking what they want from them, saying it's not a mistake, and that they seem rushed because fewer people can finish. She questions if they have forgotten something, since only half can survive every round, but everyone survived the last one. Then she questions if it doesn't make sense that only a quarter should survive this round. They become terrified, and she says there is nothing unfair about that, as all they have to do is strive to be in the top 25%. And now she will explain the third round. Then, the monsters from their army will appear at the gates of a castle appears every 30 minutes. The target is the relic in the center of the village, and there will be a total of 4 waves. Everyone there needs to work together to protect the relic, and will receive rewards. Additional bonuses are given if they protect the relic for 3 hours. If they fail to protect it, they will receive a massive penalty. And finally, regardless of whether they manage to protect it or not, they will be evaluated by the number of monsters they defeat. Many more monsters than normal may appear due to the nature of the round, but they will be around 1/4 the strength, which should make it easier. Of course, this means that gold and experience will be reduced in the same way. Joao, I know he's happy because all he has to do is kill several monsters, thinking that this round, test for a new game. Then, the angel summons the remaining goblins that were missing, and thus, 10,000 humans are pitted against 50,000 goblins, and she orders them to fight to the death. At that point, the goblins will be easy since he has command authority. But then Angel says that he almost forgot, because the representative chosen in the last round was life and a documentary. So, he says that she can use command authority from this round onward, but she's betting everyone is curious about what will happen if the representative dies. And if the representative dies from a monster or due to natural causes, their seat becomes available. However, if they die at the hands of another player, that's another matter entirely. In that case, the killer immediately takes over as the regional representative. He will receive all 10 points of authority, and everyone starts to give Josuke suspicious looks. Then she informs everyone that the monsters will appear in 10 minutes, urging them to work together and survive for 3 hours, although she doubts they will be able to. And so he gets angry, cursing God and everyone else. Then everyone already starts to turn towards him, and he curses everyone, saying they can come at him, that he will take them all down, starting with whoever comes first. But then, one of them points out that he is acting as if he's strong. When she can only use her authority, she commands 10 times over, and claims she definitely said that whoever kills that bastard will become the representative. And the little bald guy thinks that it would be better if he became the representative, but everyone notices the protagonist approaching John Seek through Alina, but he tells him he shouldn't worry, because he only wants to talk. And John wonders what he's talking about, demanding he say what he came to do, saying he'll get straight to the point, stating that if he plans to threaten him into bowing his head, he won't do it. But the protagonist says he has a suggestion, and believes he's in a difficult situation right now, asking how about he protects him, and John finds that strange, and the protagonist says he will. They launch the attack, and Ryu orders everyone to stand back. Then, the other humans warn him of the danger. However, Ryu charges at the goblins alone, regardless. Then, Ryu explains that, when joining, protect him so that the other players don't target him. This means he will accept the responsibility of escorting them, And everyone is surprised that the Black Reaper will protect that guy, because that also means they will have to face him as well. They quickly decide this is too much to handle, wondering what they should do now. And John C. is surprised that that guy would be so feared. Just looking at their reactions, the offer is quite tempting, but there's always a price to pay. He asks what the protagonist wants in return, but the protagonist says it's nothing, too much, stating that he will follow all of his orders, and that is the condition. He's surprised, asking if the protagonist is telling him to become his subordinate and what the reason is for offering such a deal. The protagonist replies that he cannot tell him. He questions what kind of commands the protagonist wants him to obey, but the protagonist says he can't reveal that either, only saying that he needs to follow his orders unconditionally. He's taken aback, because the protagonist is essentially asking him to follow him blindly, and he questions if the protagonist really thinks he will listen. But then, he wonders what will happen if he says no, since they probably won't attack him in broad daylight. And the protagonist tells him to choose, because people are waiting for his response. John Sake is surprised, but tells the protagonist that he will reject his offer. He responds that this was expected, because there's no way that guy would give up his pride so easily. Everyone notices that he refused, and they think that if he had accepted, he would be able to hunt without worrying. They think his pride was hurt at the thought that he would have to follow orders. The girl says that his pride seems to be more important than his life, and that perhaps they are underestimating him too much. And the protagonist thinks that this is progressing in. When joining a group or organization, the first impressions he makes will be important, and therefore, he needs to etch his existence into everyone's minds, and mere goblins won't stop him from, the same way as it did in his past life. So, what he needs to do now is draw a line. Thus, he says that if he refuses, then there's nothing he can do, since he rejected the offer. He won't care about it anymore, saying that whether he lives or dies is no longer his concern, and turns around to leave. This surprises everyone, that the Black Reaper no longer cares about what is happening. Approaching John Sake, thinking they can attack that son of a bitch however they please, he becomes scared to death, questioning whether he should have accepted that offer. And so the wave is about to start soon, and the system orders them to be prepared for the appearance and disappearance of monsters, and to protect the relic. In 30 minutes, regardless of how many monsters are defeated, the second wave is going to start, and everyone prepares to protect that thing. John Sig thinks that he can't fight those guys who are after his head, and since it's a personal mission, he has no choice but to do it alone. But then he notices the protagonist heading to the corner and wonders where he's going, so he continues walking while John Seek approaches him, following. He questions whether he plans to fight alone as well. However, he notices that this is the entrance. Then, the gates begin to open as the wave starts, revealing 4,900 players and 9,800 weakened goblins. The weakened goblins number 9,800, and the monsters begin to enter as everyone becomes terrified. And it is said that, due to the nature of the round, the goblins only possess 1/3 of their original strength, and they pray for his success. And John thinks this is crazy, saying he's going to hide and observe the situation, but he wonders why the Black Reaper isn't moving, questioning whether he's actually going to try to fight all those goblins alone. And even though the entrance is tight, it's big enough for at least 10 people to pass through, and he wonders whether the showing his true strength. Furthermore, he also wants to capture the attention of that being, and to do so, he'll need to show off a bit. With that, he continues to decimate the goblins. Reaper is confident enough to handle this alone. As the monsters head towards him, Jay, who is watching, thinks he is completely insane for bluffing like that, because his level is ridiculously high. He has no reason to watch, since he'll just fight for a bit and then run away. But the protagonist sees those monsters coming towards him and activates the power of his scythe. In the midst of the chaos, the slaughter begins with the goblins rushing in, and he prepares to kill them, slicing and dicing them all while they're still in the air. And Joao Sek is surprised that the Black Reaper is so strong, wondering if reaching level 16 makes you that powerful. But he realizes it's not the time for that, as he needs to run and level up so he can become stronger. And the fight between the goblins and the players is about to begin, with everyone trying to block the monsters while taking a lot of damage. So, they order everyone not to let them reach the relic, under any circumstances, and John Sek says he needs to kill some of those goblins too, and so he calls them XP bags, charging in and managing to hit one of them. But then, a monster. He's attacked from behind and almost gets hit, but manages to kill the attacker. He says that, thanks to the detection rune, he can see the path they're going to take, so it's pretty easy. But then, he almost takes damage and has part of his ear ripped off. He realizes that it was an arrow, since he had never seen goblins that shoot arrows, and he wonders where that guy is, because even if he doesn't know who it is, he tells this thing to wait until he finds him, because he's going to rip every limb off its body. But then, he gets hit by a spear thrown by another player, who says he caught him, and John, who is outraged by this, pulls out the spear and goes at the player with his knife, killing him completely, telling him to die, stabbing him repeatedly, swearing, and finishing him off. But the players are astonished by the boy's skill, and they also think his nickname is very cool. Then, the players comment that, in games, goblins are usually the weakest enemies, is almost hit by an arrow in the meantime. This arrow came from another player who was far away, and he notices that this piece of shit is trying to hit him. And while he throws the Storingsboth, spear in hand, the player pulls another arrow, but ends up having his skull pierced before he can even use it. He realizes that the players are a bigger problem than the monsters. If he weren't the region representative, this would be easier. He reflects on his role as the region's representative, thinking that if it were up to him, he'd pass the responsibility to someone else, questioning whether he should even accept it, the help of the Black Harvester. But he decides against it, believing a man must maintain his pride. He refuses to become his servant. He believes there has to be a way, a method to hunt without insecurity, without constantly worrying about the players. Then, he notices the guy who's currently ranked third in the region, the Black Dragon, and his right-hand man. My God in heaven, what a name. Shunbu, guys. Oh my goodness. For those who don't know Shunbo, I recommend watching the anime of the same name. It's very good, really funny, and has a beautiful romance. And John is happy that he was there calling out to that guy, talking with the Black Dragon, and ordering it to protect him from now on. Meanwhile, the protagonist is taking advantage of the skeletal necklace's effect, increasing his attack speed by 25%, and he defeats the goblin. His kill count is at 502, and the triple experience buff is applied, increasing all attributes by 100% due to the slaughter runes effects. The gold he receives from the monsters is 3.3, but he gains an additional 1.66. Then, he opens the attributes window and notices that he already has almost 20,000 gold. If he continues like this, he will get the 20,000 during the second wave. However, he plans to save more gold from this round to buy 2 common skills, and if he can do that, he will get the counter he has, is that the golems won't let him pass. Then, he alerts them, and the fight begins. In doing so, he manages to dodge, and shortly after, activates the death insignia, which appears above the golem, and with weak, so they feel like they can handle the goblins. However, one of the players is ferociously attacked by one. As a result, the other players run away in desperation, and with all this chaos, heart rune of true reflection. And so the monsters attack him again, but the protagonist manages to get rid of that wave of monsters very easily, simply by spinning his scythe. Then, the goblins start to get scared of him, and he asks if they aren't going to come at him. If they don't come, he's going to go after all of them. And so, after a while, something happens. If the crystal emits a sound, the monsters will fall apart. And so, it is said that they successfully blocked the first wave. They finally survived. There are 393 players remaining there, and the deaths total 967. And as a reward, the surviving players will receive 500 gold. So, they think they can rest a little before the second wave arrives. And the protagonist thinks that 967 people have died, even if they were weakened goblins. And you can't ignore that, because, in any case, he wonders where John C. is, until he finds him, noticing that, as expected, he survived, but thinks it will be difficult for him to get through this round, and John Sec is completely worn out over there, and thinks those little shits aren't killing any goblins, they're just coming after him, from him. Then, one of them chases after John Seek, trying to kill him, but the Black Dragon on his right hand ends up killing him first. John Seek thinks that, fortunately, he has that guy, because command authority is an incredible thing, and thanks to them protecting him like meat shields, he managed to survive the first wave. And the crazy guy who is serving him asks John Seek if he is fine, and he notices that the guy is following him, even though he doesn't use command authority, but then he's in a lot of pain and bleeding heavily. Anyone would realize that. He wonders if he will be able to survive in this state for the remaining time. But then, he thinks that he will survive, no matter what happens, and he will get through this round as if he were taking a walk in the park. But, rolling, all the players will understand the game, because the only thing on their minds right now is their survival instinct. Therefore, The only thing they will be capable of doing is… Something comes up. Then, another system message appears. The second wave is coming, and the players are now up against the weakened goblins and hobgoblins, and there are 786 of them, and due to the nature of that round, the goblins are at 1/3 of their strength. So, they attack the protagonist again, who manages to kill them very easily, clearing one of the entrances. Alone, creating a sea of corpses all around, he finally reaches level 20, and his apprentice rank increases to regular, allowing him to use the combination function. He is happy that he has finally reached that level and can now use the function to create unique items that cannot be obtained in the store. And it is said that to commemorate the increase in his rank, the death insignia was strengthened, increasing its additional damage from 100% to 120%. Additionally, the Reaper's exclusive ability, Deadly Night, is acquired, which has the effect of invoking dark energy within a 500 meters radius, creating an artificial night, and the user can remove that skill as desired. His next skill will be available at level 40, and it mentions that the additional bonus from his death badge increased to 120. He gained this new ability because Deadly Night, in particular, has great synergy with the Reaper rune, becoming more powerful at night. But while he is looking at the inventory, the monsters come at him, giving him no peace. However, he is happy that they are coming, as he has just learned a new ability. And so he invokes Deadly Night, making everyone go blind and killing the monsters with absurd ease, their movement speed multiplied to an extreme degree. And he leaves, corpses in heaps there. Then he successfully blocks the second wave. The number of players is now at 3,343, and several dead are descending. He notices that the second wave is over, and is run. And Rio confesses that he did the same thing when he first entered the game. It was only on his second attempt that he understood there was no logic in running across that field. Meanwhile, wondering whether he should buy some common skills and rest. But then, as he opens the store, he sees that the first skill he wants to buy is presence detection, as, with this ability, he can identify all targets within a 30 meters radius, and it seems the only things in that area are goblin corpses. So, he wonders if he should add another 20,000 of gold. Then, the third round arrives, and now there are only weakened Roby goblins, numbering 6,686, and the protagonist continues killing them along with everyone else, and they win yet another wave. Thus, the fourth wave arrives, and there are only 3,001 players left against 6,002 Roby goblins, and they keep fighting, trying to stay alive as best as they can. So, they manage to block the fourth wave as well. Jock. He thinks that in just one more hour, they will be able to get out of there, because if he can hold out for that one last hour, he will be able to survive. And even though he has used all his command authorities, so much so that he has that guy protecting him, his life will not be in danger. But then, the fifth wave arrives, and the 2,700 players will fight against 10,800 weakened gnolls. They are extremely surprised, wondering why there are so many of them. It's mentioned that, due to the environment, they are at 1/3 of their original strength, but the monsters are still quite strong. But Jay thinks he doesn't need to worry, as it's a chance to break a record. He will become stronger, and he will become even stronger, and slit the throats of anyone who underestimates him. But then the guys who are around start to be killed, those that he is controlling. One of them orders the others to catch that gangster who is controlling everyone, because, in their wickedness, they want to take the place of representative, saying that they need to kill him this time. And so John Sek orders his guards to block them, ordering everyone who comes to be blocked. But in this, they die one by one, and player crashes into a barrier, and Rio explains that modern people have never killed a small animal before. Certainly, they will have a hard time killing goblins. However, if they is left alone and thinks he's screwed, thinking that it's not the time to hunt and that he has to run away, thinking that he needs to survive that wave, just that one wave, but he ends up going close to the protagonist and is dealing with the monsters on his side all alone. And he is surprised that the Black Reaper is there calling out to him, saying that he will accept his offer, saying that he will do what he wants. Asking him to protect him. But the protagonist doesn't even respond. John Six says that he is saying he will accept his offer, asking him to protect him, but the protagonist this time simply refuses, asking if he didn't tell him, saying that he won't care about him anymore, because whether he dies or survives, he couldn't care less. But John Sick asks him to wait, as he was the one who made the offer. And he is saying that he will become his servant, asking why he would refuse. And the protagonist says that he doesn't need a servant who doesn't even possess any command authority. and so, he is surprised that the Reaper is calling him useless. He also says that if he had known this, he would have accepted it sooner. Then everyone asks if they heard it right, since the protagonist refused the offer, a blow, because he was contemplating what to do if the Black Reaper were to assist him. But the truth is that Joao ended up getting screwed over, and when he looks back, he is filled with fear, and they say that now they can kill him to satisfy the desires of their hearts. So, Joao says that even if he dies, he will kill at least one more of them. But then, that crazy kid approaches him, saying that he is tired, saying he came there to help him. He is surprised that Yong Min went there, saying that he still has him, saying that if they get out of this alive, he will take care of him. But it ends up that Yong Min himself attacks him, throwing a huge punch in the crazy man's face. Who would have thought that a kid who dreams of being a gangster wouldn't be a good thing, right? Oh, I couldn't. Want to survive this game? They will have to overcome that fear. So, Rio continues observing the fight between the humans and the goblins. And one human, in particular, catches his attention, but when he imagine that, and after receiving that huge punch, he falls to the ground questioning what is happening. So, Yong Min says he's going to kill him so that he doesn't have to go through so much pain. He starts cussing out the kid, but Yong Min beats him relentlessly, punch after punch. He doesn't understand what's happening because he, Uncle John Cheek, is being betrayed by that little shit. So he continues to beat him and kick him in the head, and so, the region's representative was murdered, and the representative's power will be passed on to the murderer, and the player Huan Guoming is the new representative of the region. He declares that he is the king now. So, when he becomes the region's representative, he receives command authority, and he says that, now that he thinks about it, he can control it however and whenever he wants. So he says he's going to put his command authority to great use, telling him not to get pissed off at him, saying that this happened because he ran away. Out there, thinking this is shameful. So he talks to everyone, asking if they saw him beating that guy, since he had said that they had a great chance of winning. But they think, which is good. And in fact, they are surprised that this crazy guy killed someone with his bare hands, and that's giving them the creeps, calling him a psychopath, because to think he actually dying like that is too much to take in. But then they notice that this guy was the one who was sucking up to that gangster, and that he had planned to betray him from the start, thinking how scary that is, because how could a person like that become a representative of the region? And they immediately change their target. But this man realizes this, because, unfortunately, he has a way to get himself out of this situation, running towards the protagonist and talking to the Black Reaper. And the protagonist asks what's wrong. He asks if he saw the message, saying that he is now the representative of the region, and tries to see the player's information. Rio only has access to the mission progress. At this point, she comments that guiding inferior humans hurts her ego. However, she is slowly starting to enjoy it. All command authority. But the protagonist asks, so what? He talks about that offer he made to Johika, saying that he's going to accept it. In other words, he's going to do everything Johik wants. He wants to. In return, he has to protect him. Thinking that the reason Joao Chique was abandoned was due to a lack of commanding authority, the protagonist must accept his offer. However, he says he didn't like his attitude, and the boy doesn't understand anything. The protagonist says that if he gets on his knees and begs, he might consider it, but then he asks if the protagonist didn't hear him, saying that he has commanding authority, but the protagonist doesn't give a shit about that, and walks away, asking what he thinks it means, because it seems like he's misunderstanding something. But the one who has something to lose from this is him, not himself, asking if he wants his protection, telling him to get on his knees and beg, and everyone there is dying to kill him. So he actually does it, saying he will do whatever he wants, so he should use him as a servant, begging the protagonist. And he says he's seen this so many times that he's getting tired of it. And yet, unlike John, stylish, Yong Min is proving useful for the moment. He says he will accept the offer, thanking him profusely, but Prota tells him to stop, as he doesn't want to see him like that. And so he stops, and Prota steps forward, in front of him, while everyone questions if this is how it ends, wondering if the Black Reaper will truly protect Yong Min, and what will happen if they all attack at once. They question if they even witnessed the Dark Reaper fighting, since no one can handle countless opponents simultaneously. They have no chance of defeating that kind of monster. But Prota says he will assist them in making their decision, stating he will give them two options. They can give up representing the region, return to hunting monsters, and survive. Or, because of people like the Black Reaper, and well, he continues to defeat goblins and gain experience. And finally, he looks around for someone else, but there was only then they can die by his hands. And, if possible, he recommends they choose the first option, but the second isn't a problem either, because he won't have to see anyone wielding a sword again against him as a human being. And everyone is scared to death, immediately hiding their weapons and fleeing to resume hunting peacefully. He finds this impressive, as he had imagined that everyone would recoil at a single word. He comments that, as an enemy, he is terrifying, but as an ally, there is no one more reliable. So Prot, having fulfilled his promise, thinks that the situation is slowly coming to an end, and with that, they safely conclude the fifth wave. However, if things end like this, it will be somewhat irritating. He speaks with Yong Min, and the boy prepares himself to do everything he is told, and Prota says that, as promised, Yong Min must do everything he orders. Then the boy asks what he should do, requesting that he simply give the order, and Prota orders him to use all 10 command authorities and break the relic. He is then surprised by this order, stating that if they break the relic, they will receive a penalty. Massive. But he wonders, why? Because even if he uses all his authorities, he won't be able to make Errand his slave, and he wonders if he can even ask the reason why. And the protagonist tells him to shut up and do as he's told, and he says he can use 9 authorities instead of 10, but the protagonist says he won't ask again, and if he doesn't want to die, he should do it now. And the boy says that he understands, saying he will do as he wishes, and the protagonist says that, just so he knows, he will designate the people on whom he will use the command authority, speaking all the names and orders these people to break the relic, and he doesn't understand anything, because everyone is his friend in this situation, wondering if it's on purpose. But then, he goes over there, apologizing. Only a small group of goblins in front of him. With that, he feels like he can breathe a little easier, and when he opens his attribute window, he notices that he has already reached level 4, and always, to the staff, saying that these are orders from the Black Reaper, and he hopes they understand. Then he says everyone's name, asking them to break the relic. Then he receives a notification, because the relic is under attack, so they keep hitting it. And the other players tell them to stop, asking what they're doing, asking if they want to be penalized, and saying that if they continue, it will break. So they rush over there, trying to save the relic from being destroyed, but it's too late, and it breaks into many, many pieces. And with the relic broken, the main mission is now a failure, and as a 30-minute penalty, the Procurator of Divine Retribution will be summoned. Everyone wonders what that is, terrified, and the system orders him to survive while facing the Procurator of Divine Retribution, and the round will not be over until the time runs out. Finished. They wonder if it's a boss, and the secret mission begins, and the protagonist is very happy about this, because that secret mission will give him 3,000 gold, an amount that he definitely longing, and everyone who witnessed that secret mission is surprised that the reward for surviving it is 3,000 gold, since the reward for protecting the relic was only 2,000, making the profit greater. And Prota talks about the reward being greater than what he obtained after clearing the 5th horde, and says that's why he came to break the relic. But he didn't break it alone, because it was confirmed that players were attacking the relic. Then, the 10 players who attacked the relic will be penalized, and 50% of their attributes will be permanently removed. They are surprised that their attributes will decrease because of that, and become angry with Yong Min, since he was the one who did it, and he says he messed up, because he didn't know that was the penalty. And, as he gains 2 attribute points every time he levels up, so he takes the points and allocates them all to agility, because in addition to increasing his chance of dodging, it also increases his movement speed. The one responsible for failing to protect the relic, the region's representative, will also be penalized, and he is surprised by this, and with that, 50% of his attributes are removed, permanently. He keeps wondering, what the hell is this? And the protagonist explains that the permanent removal of attributes is directly linked to survival, and can be fatal. But even so, for now, he will try to defeat V's retribution attorney, open the store, and says he will buy normal items with the extra gold. So, he buys the assassin's hood and boots, long for cunning, and says that even the smallest buff to these attributes will help him. And the next step is to place the items and combine them with a mana stone. And the combination is successful, because the +1 modifier to all attributes has been added to the skeletal necklace. He can place a mana stone on each piece of equipment, so, for the other equipment, the same must be done to them. Work, and the combination continues to work. Then, he puts a golden stone on his scythe, and the scythe gains 2 more points in strength, and he says that the lowest ranked mana stone won't be. It's a great help, but it's better than nothing. Then things start to change, and he wonders if he's going to initiate something, making one of them nervous. They think they only need to hold out for 30 minutes. At that moment, one of them says he's right, because they can just run away. However, Prota says he wouldn't be so sure, as it's not easy to escape the prosecutor of divine retribution. After all, in his past life, only 500 out of 2,700 survived, and simply trying to survive is already a difficult task. Originally, the prosecutor of divine retribution is a monster that can be defeated with difficulty by 5 level 40 players, but he plans to kill him alone and receive a large reward. That's why the sky opens in front of them all, and Prota says it's because he has an attack power. Therefore, agility becomes the most important attribute in the early game, and Rio feels that, with all the rapid progress he has made, he has certainly managed to attract the attention of the progress. The title he obtained by killing Brielle, which is the title of First Angel Killer. He says that this title doubles the user's stats against divine enemies, and the prosecutor of divine retribution is consequently a divine enemy, and he was surprised by this, wondering if they could survive like this, and if it wasn't all too easy. Yomi says that he remained scared for nothing, but then the monster's scepter rises up. He walks among them, raising the scepter in the middle and touching it to the ground. Then, a barrier is created, and so it is said that the Seeker of Divine Retribution activated a restriction field. He wondered, what the fuck is this? And it is said that one cannot leave the area unless the activator disarms it. They become even more surprised, and it is said that the player's attributes within the field have been halved, and so Prota realizes that around 300 people have been affected. It's a shame, but he can't save them. Then, he opens his wings, and, from above him, a bunch of mana points erupt, and Prota thinks it has begun, and those mana points descend upon all the players, killing them instantly. And one of them remains. They are surprised that they want him to dodge this, and think that it's difficult to follow the earth with their eyes. And the monster launches even more arrows up at them, and the protagonist talks about that restriction field, because once you're trapped inside it, dodging the arrows of light is nearly impossible. But, on the other hand, provided he can dodge them, there's no danger. Now that everyone is distracted, the time has come, and he says that, as expected, while hunting humans, it doesn't pay attention to its surroundings, and as soon as the barrier disappears, he will ambush it. So, everyone keeps dying until the barrier disappears. The protagonist realizes that now is the time to act, saying that he doesn't need to worry about it turning around, since it doesn't have ears and, he launches a successful attack. Then, he explains that this is its effect. Additionally, the insignia adds 100% additional damage to the hit, and seeing that the guardians are angel. Then he throws his dagger at the goblins and orders them to advance, but they remain still, which forces him to go towards them. And after killing a few more goblins, his level goes up again. The distance between them is 5 meters. And he activates the death insignia, because he needs to kill it in a single blow. But the monster ends up looking, and the protagonist says that, it seems, it noticed, but it's too late, too much. The monster really takes a lot of damage, and the protagonist notices that he hit the bullseye and struck its eye perfectly. The monster starts screaming, and he thinks that because of the insignia of death, he only has 60% stamina left, and removing 40% of his stamina with one hit isn't bad at all. He must be planning to use the restriction field to find him. He really activates the field, but the protagonist thinks that as soon as he realizes he hasn't caught anyone in the restriction field, he'll release it. Then he says that he already took one of his eyes, and he shouldn't care if he takes the second one, and he goes on the offensive, hitting the monster again, completely blinding it, and the monster starts screaming right in front of the protagonist, and it's said that it activates the restriction field again. And then he says it doesn't matter, because without its eyes, it's not much different from a blessed bag of crap, and the monster starts releasing its arrows everywhere. Side. But the protagonist is right behind him, and he realizes that the monster plans to kill him by shooting light arrows in every direction. So, he uses deadly night everywhere around there, launching his arrows, but then he is surprised that nothing was hit by the attack, and the protagonist explains that light cannot overcome darkness because that's how the system of this world works. So, he wants to end it all with just his scythe and charges towards the monster. He's the second guy I've heard about who summons the angel for a 1v1 and wins. You see? This crazy guy is fearless, and, after cutting the monster, he starts screaming and bleeding, looking back and trying to hit the protagonist, but he manages to escape the attack by floating in the air, doing a somersault, and hitting the angel again, tearing off one of its. Once again, he finishes off all 100 goblins and completes the first mission without much trouble. He explains that the reason he relentlessly killed goblins wasn't just to get the angel's attention, wings, and, after the monster is bleeding, wingless, and completely weakened, the protagonist uses 10% of his power and will now create distance, avoiding killing it. And so it is said that the conditions have been met, and the passive skill of the Seeker of Divine Retribution's last radiant glow is activated, and it's said that he becomes invincible now. He states that this is the phase he enters upon reaching 10% of his health. And if I had decapitated him, I wouldn't have been able to kill him afterward. Then, the monster starts swinging wildly, attacking everything that moves, and he declares that he will witness his last attempt. The duration of the last radiant glow is 50 seconds, and decreases as he does everything he can to kill someone who isn't even close to him. In the last second, the protagonist simply smiles, because his invincibility, it's over. He charges forward once again, drawing the monster's attention, who looks over, but it's too late, and he manages to kill it, decapitating the creature and ending everything. As soon as he kills that divine being, his level increases multiple times, gaining an additional 8,200 gold, plus another 4,100 more. He remarks that it has been confirmed that he is the first player to defeat the Seeker of Divine Retribution, thereby obtaining the title of Challenger of Divine Retribution. This title reduces damage taken from holy creatures by 80%, and he also receives the Ether, condensed for being the first to kill the Seeker of Divine Retribution, and he receives the Radiant Rune for being the first to kill it as well. The acquired rune will then be engraved on his body, automatically. He mentions that, as expected, he received the Ether he was anticipating, and states that this was arguably his biggest reason for killing the Prosecutor of Retribution. Divine, since condensed ether is necessary to create a god rank item. He also obtained the Rune of Radiance, which increases his intelligence by 1 for each level he gains. He also wanted to win first place in the mission, since the top 3 always receive the best rewards, and, in his case, he received a ticket to choose by 1 point, and the effectiveness of fear abilities by 1%. And since he's currently level 30, his intelligence and the effectiveness of his abilities increase by 30 and 30%, respectively. He says he won't need to invest in intelligence for quite some time. The secret mission is completed, and everyone receives 3,000 gold. They are surprised that it's already over, and very happy about it. But they realize that the Black Reaper single-handedly defeated the Seeker of Divine Retribution, and in their eyes, he transforms into one massive monster. The angel appears there, finding this incredible because defeating that thing alone is unprecedented. The first time she has ever witnessed such a feat. Olivia recognizes that human and asks if they can conduct a quick interview with the Black Reaper. Negro, asking why he desired to kill the Seeker of Divine Retribution. He notes, once again, that these are necessary questions and simply answers that it is just because, but he finds it strange, as he would have received a reward simply for surviving. However, he risked everything, and the protagonist says he couldn't let him kill everyone there. They are touched by. That's because he faced that monster in order to save her. And they say they thought he was arrogant because he was strong, but he seems like a nice guy. And the angel says that fighting a powerful creature just to save his commoner made her realize that humans are as strange as she had heard, since they are able to ignore all the times they were against each other to come together again, unite again. And she says it's a little difficult to understand, but the protagonist thinks it's clear. After all, what would selfish beings like angels know about it? But she says that, in any case, they worked hard to survive, but they are still not allowed to relax, reminding them that their elimination will be based on their overall performance. So she wants to see the results, because the Dark Reaper was the Bring Dane, low-level rare weapon. It is explained to us that the rewards are given based on the player's performance in the current region, as well as in all other regions. Therefore, if he stays first with 3,631 kills, putting him far, far above second place, and so they notice that he alone killed 3,100, while the second barely reached 1,000. Furthermore, he's level 30, which is absolutely insane, making him wonder if he got an experience bonus or something. And the protagonist believes he actually received an XP bonus and, also, a little hack behind the scenes. So he explains that only those who rank first in all regions receive this privilege. And, once again, because he's ranked first, he receives a lot of extra stuff, gaining a lot of additional hacks. He notices that he won the rare ring ticket and can choose one of the listed rings. Among them are the Ring of Swift Winds, the Ring of Blue Magic, and the Ring of Resistance. He says that it might seem like the weakest of them due to its name, but he's going to select the Ring of Resistance, and upon acquiring it, he says that no matter how great your attributes are, being hit by a status effect is a death sentence, and resistance isn't something you can increase with attributes, so it's better for him to have it with him. Even if he won't use it immediately, he now believes he can receive another reward, which includes a 50% increase in his attributes, restricted to the 4th round, 4,000 gold, or round information. He mentions that, as expected, the experience buff isn't available, since the 4th round isn't about killing monsters. Therefore, he chooses the 4,000 gold, and then, Ain speaks with everyone, asking if they were able to check their individual rankings, and the cutoff will be at rank 1,225. They are surprised, and talk to Anja, telling him to check again, insisting that he defeated several of them, and there's no way his rank is that low. But Anja tells the worms who couldn't reach that rank, saying, in first place in all regions, he will receive increasingly better rewards, and, as a reward for having come in first in every region, he also received a special reward selection chest, that they will be eliminated. She snaps her finger and kills them all, completely wiping them out and simply deleting them. With that, the round comes to an end, and everyone wakes up to find that they are back, and survived 3 rounds. Not only that, but he even obtained the summoner class, summoning the fairy to his room, and essentially getting a Pokemon companion, and she mentions that she managed to finish the 3rd round safely thanks to the fairy's barriers, and because her bodyguard drew the enemy's attention. And one more thing, she placed in the top 3, so, she says she's wondering if the Dark Reaper would like that magical crystal she received as a reward. But that kid, right? He's picking up all the girls, throwing charm around. He's really winning. The guy's living the sugar baby life. Meanwhile, after returning, the man becomes extremely angry, breaking the few things he owns in his house, cursing the Black Reaper intensely, because the penalty was applied, and all his attributes are halved. He becomes extremely angry because he wouldn't have told them to break the relic if he had known about this. But then he turns around and receives a message when, he thinks he's completely screwed and that Garam is calling him. He answers the call and asks if Garam is crazy, saying, Main Chando, what the fuck is this? And Sean tells him not to play innocent. He confronts him, asking if he doesn't know that everyone got screwed because of him, asking how he dares to command his friends, acting like he has authority, and questioning if he thinks he's human after all that. But he says he had no choice, because the Black Reaper would have killed him if he hadn't done it. Then, Songon says that he should have just died, and the boy asks what he's talking about. This Yongin says that, instead of hurting his friends, he should have just died right away. But then, he says that it wasn't good for him either, but he starts by using the ticket he won in the 1st round. So, he chooses the small dagger and discards his goblin dagger. And as for the chest, he will wait. He didn't realize that his attributes would also fall because he's the region's representative. But Garam gets pissed, because he's not the only one affected. After all, they were used by their friend, and none of this would have happened. What would have happened if he hadn't been so petty as to take the position representing the region, and even calling him a traitor? He even tries to speak, but Garam orders him to never call him again. Whether in real life or in the other world, he tells him not to act like his friend, because he might end up killing him if he sees his face in front of him. Then he hangs up and wonders what he did wrong, since he is also a victim in this story, and he's going to ask the rest of the people to take down that piece of shit. But then, everyone blocks him, and he swears at everyone, no longer wanting anything to do with those friendships, saying that he doesn't need that shit. He will live his life alone, wondering what he said that would warrant being killed if Garam sees his face again, asking if he wants his head. So he must eagerly wait for the next time, as he will kill everyone. Meanwhile, over with President Ma, he orders the sector head to come in. So, what does the Ka? It seems he managed to survive again. He says he was lucky, but Ma says the 3rd round was much more difficult, and asks if he's okay. He just agrees, saying maybe. Because the monsters were weaker, they didn't have many problems. Then, Ma asks what his current level is, and if he's already gotten a class, and he says he's at level 11. His class is Knight, and his errand is at the same level as him. However, he says that her class is different, that she is a summoner, and Ma is surprised by this, saying that this is amazing because he doesn't think it's a common class. And the manager says he was also surprised, because after the class change, she summoned fairies and conjured protective shields. And thanks to use it. And well, he activates his attribute window and finds a title he had previously acquired called Last Trip Player. He explains that he had never been able to obtain her, he managed to hunt safely. And Ma thinks that's great, telling him to maintain a good relationship with her. like he's doing now, because if he likes her, he's free to have a relationship. However, he questions him about it, asking what he means by that, and then there's a line that just says, relationships make it easier to discover people's weaknesses, and it's not a request to be taken seriously. But then he questions whether or not he should actually get into a relationship with her. But Ma starts laughing, saying it's been a while since she last saw him so frustrated, and says that he doesn't need to do it if it's too much trouble. The manager seems more relieved, saying that, in any case, Aaron doesn't have feelings for him. But then Ma asks, why not? After all, he is very reliable and manly, and he replies that she's still very formal with him, even calling him Mr. Bodyguard. Ma is surprised by this, but anyway, he asks what the urgent report was that he needed to deliver. He says that, first of all, he would like to apologize, and Ma asks why he's apologizing. He says that he failed to carry out his orders and assist the Black Reaper, and also failed to deliver his message. Amar questions this, saying there must be a reason. Then, he recounts what happened, detail by detail, to Amar, who is surprised by the story. Seeker of divine retribution, saying he seems like a powerful opponent, and asks if the Grim Reaper killed him. He confirms that he did, and that he defeated him using extremely powerful skills, such as, if he already knew how to win. Amar thinks that the Black Reaper doesn't seem like someone who needs help, and that he actually has attributes far above expectations, at a level that even he himself feels ashamed for thinking he was strong enough with the Black Knight rune. So, he thinks that he would like to meet him if he had the chance, and says that, since he has his own reasons, this title in the previous 99 attempts. Then, he uses his random rune fragment and obtains the rune of temporal reversal. However, when he tries to engrave the rune onto his soul, the engraving fails, will leave things as they are. Then, the manager apologizes again, but Mahmoud changes the subject, asking what the result of his hunt was. He says that the first one is called Zhuanggin, and he assumes, whether that's his real name or not, there are several people with the same name across the country. But, assuming he's around 20 years old and lives in Seoul, that number is reduced to 5 people. So, Ma asks about their locations, and he says that the agent tried for a month to get their addresses, but Ma is shocked by this time frame, noting that they won't find them before the locking, 4th round, and the manager confirms, saying they're not in a rush so they can relax a little. But then, Ma asks how much gold he obtained, and the manager says he has 10,000, and Ma says that he is halfway there, since the store has a general skill called analysis, and he must learn it without getting 20,000 gold. But then, he remembers something he meant to say, saying that he almost forgot to tell him that, last month, a shareholder bought a large amount of shares in his company, but Ma questions which company he is referring to when he says his. The manager from the company reminds him about the heavenly demon consultations, the ones he's currently prioritizing. Then, he asks about the percentage of shares that were purchased, telling him not to be too. He's told it's around 31%, and he's extremely surprised. He mentions that he even doubted it when he saw it on the screen. He states that the heavenly demons consultations are valued at 900 billion ONS, meaning the investor put in 280 billion. He's astonished that someone possesses that much money, wondering if there's a wealthy individual he doesn't know, or if it might be one of his brothers, and figures that, either way, he's certain the 31% investment was made to directly participate in management. Following this, he speaks with the head of the, because they identified him as a time traveler who has already undertaken more than 100 journeys, and allowing him to possess this power would enable him to return to the game infinitely. At this point, department, requesting the contact information for that shareholder. Then, the protagonist thinks that it's almost time for him to get in touch with him, but says that he can't contact him. First, he needs to maintain his dignity as a major investor. But at that moment, one arrives, screaming in the protagonist's room, asking what his level is, questioning this out of nowhere. He says that there's a guy who thinks he's all that. He keeps saying that his brother is a high level, and makes fun of him, saying that his brother is at level 11, and has a class. The protagonist is listening to his brother talk about level 11, and states that his level is higher, telling him not to worry about it. Then, he asks what his brother's level is, and the protagonist wonders what he should answer, because if he tells the truth, it could be problematic in many ways. He simply says that it's 12. The boy gets all happy, asking if he also has a class, and the protagonist says of course, and his brother repeatedly asks what it is, questioning him several times about his class, but he says it's a secret, and one gets all sad, saying that those kinds of classes don't exist. Secrets between brothers, but the protagonist acknowledges their existence, asking him to leave because he needs to sleep. The boy simply understands that he should leave. When he leaves, The protagonist notices that he answers the call, and it's Omar. He asks if he's speaking with Mr. Yong Min. The protagonist asks who that is, and Ma Gong-glok introduces himself, saying he is the Lord of the Celestial Demon Consultations. Heavenly. The protagonist thinks it's best to appear naive at first, because the more he seems like an ordinary person, the easier it will be to catch him off guard. So, he simply responds. And Ma says that last month he invested a fortune in his company, and the protagonist confirms, asking what it was about, and he says that he became the largest shareholder of all..Do Demon. He obtains the title of Last Voyage Traveler, and it's explained to us that titles are concepts that are superior to the powers of runes, and therefore, much stronger than the runes themselves, celestial. So he would like to meet him in person, and suggests treating him to a meal. The protagonist agrees, and Ma says, that's great, asking how about they get together, meet this Friday. And Prot, looking at his calendar, says that Friday is an important day to obtain the rune of inner thoughts, and mentions he already has plans for Friday, so he can't, asking if Saturday would work. And Mar says that, of course, he'll see him on the scheduled date, and Prot hangs up, saying that he knew Ma Gong-glok was going to call. After all, he created the demon's appointment, heavenly being, to receive his father's approval, and there's no way he would treat such a large shareholder poorly, and before meeting with Ma Gong-glok, he's going to get the runes that he needs. And Prot explains that there are several ways to acquire runes, and they can be found in certain locations in each round, or obtained as special rewards. They can also be a reward from a Tenno-time boss, or in extremely rare cases, from common monsters. And one thing that few people know is that they can also be obtained in real life. And, of course, the conditions for the rune, too. Manifestations are very complicated. Soon, Jang Seor will appear there, and his nickname, Yoron, is also his real name, a name he cannot forget, because he was the criminal who kidnapped his brother, and he still clearly remembers his voice asking if he wants to save him, saying that he needs to pay a price for it, asking him to reveal secret information that no one knows. But the protagonist asked at the time, "What the hell is this?" questioning how he would know that. Joron starts laughing, telling him not to lie, saying that the protagonist is a regressor, and the boy was surprised, questioning how he knows that. Joron asks if he's curious about how he knows, saying he has the inner thoughts round, and used it to probe his brother. And, of course, at this, starting to swarm, he jumps up and activates his deadly night skill. Then, absolute night, leaving the golems unable to see anything in the hall. He begins to make his victims, but soon, and also more difficult to acquire. Furthermore, Resurrection, an ability exclusive to priests, has a limit of 30% health recovery. Very moment, Joron knows what his thoughts are. He says that since that incident, he has been seeking revenge against Jung Sok Rion from his 11th regression until now, and that's why he no longer has goals or emotions, but he's still going to acquire the rune of inner thoughts before that guy does. And at that moment, Jang arrives, carrying someone in his arms, and the protagonist says that he's going to pick it up today at that location. They throw a woman down, saying they're going to take it, telling her not to scream, and she speaks softly, begging him to spare her, please. But Jay questions if that's all she has to say after he let her speak, telling her to try something different, wanting her to give him money, and she responds by saying she has a son, saying that he doesn't want to hear any of that nonsense. But she continues to apologize, and he questions why she's apologizing, and she wonders if he's doing this because he was staring at her the other day, saying that she's very sorry. So he says that's exactly the reason, asking why do something bad if you're going to regret it later, saying that he felt like shit that day. And so, 2 days, back then, he was walking strangely down the street, wondering which woman he should pick up today, saying that he feels like only one can help him forget all his problems, until he saw a girl. He focused on her body and started following her like a maniac. Then, he approached her with the power of the awakened one, and with his brilliance, he blinded her, and she felt her eyes hurting, saying that she couldn't see anything, asking who he is, and then he goes after her, and apparently makes some kind of lame deal and leaves there smiling, saying that he loves it, that he loves when a situation allows him to do whatever he wants. He says that his life was so boring that he wouldn't care if he died, but he obtained the luminescence rune, which allows his body to glow and blind his opponent, after his resurrection. However, Rio notices that this resurrection grants him maximum life, and he feels he has accomplished something incredible. Then, Ryu remarks that it's always good to have a card like that up his sleeve. Opponent. And this rune is perfect for having fun. Until, sometime later, he goes to a store, sees a woman, and thinks that she is very beautiful. So, he orders an iced Americano for her, and she says the price is 5,000. As he pays, he asks if she's new around there, mentioning he's a frequent customer, but she isn't the attendant he usually sees. She's surprised he doesn't know. He mentions he's a frequent customer, explaining that all the part-time employees left because the world has been undergoing changes recently, something he's well aware of. Therefore, he thinks it makes sense, because they could die at any moment, so there's no way they can waste their time at work. He then asks if she's the owner of the place, and she confirms that she is. Following that, he asks how old she is, because she looks very young, and she replies that she's 32. He then asks if she's a player, and she says yes, adding that she's happy he noticed. So, he asks if she could give him her number, because he likes her, but she's surprised and doesn't even respond. He asks what's wrong, but she remains frozen, and he immediately changes his demeanor, asking why she's making that face and if she hated it. His face affects the woman so much that she starts to tremble, and he begins shouting, asking if she's disgusted by his face, saying it's all a load of crap and that he won't drink. He demands they return his money for the coffee, saying it's terrible. So she gives him the refund. He grabs her hand while yelling and storms off, completely irritated, continuing to mentally curse the woman, because she's judging others based on their appearance just because she's beautiful. At least, that's what's going through his disturbed mind. Then he says he'll make her pay the price. And as she's leaving work, he grabs a baseball bat and knocks her down, saying he's going to make her pay for looking at him with those eyes. And back in the present, she is apologizing while Jong is talking, that he is simply waiting for the other players. And Rio says he's curious to know how Yong Min is faring in the first mission. And speaking of him, Yong Min was fighting against that she shouldn't judge someone based on their appearance, and she promises not to do it again. But he says that's not good enough, saying she isn't being sincere, and throws her onto the mat, asking if she thinks he's oblivious to her feigned apology to escape the situation as she continues to beg him to let her go. So he wonders if she feels nothing. A lot, saying that if she truly feels remorse, she should pay the price. And she keeps repeating that she was wrong, and it was her fault. So, he says that's exactly the point, telling her to stay put. However, the protagonist orders him to freeze, and he stops instantly, asking what the hell is going on, because he thought he was alone, questioning if he's a detective and demanding to know who he is. And the protagonist tells him not to speak like that, because he'll be screaming on the floor later. And he's surprised, asking what that was all about, if it's this, and a white mask too, calling the protagonist crazy, and asking if he thinks this is a playground. But the protagonist retorts that, apparently, he hasn't grasped the gravity of the situation yet. The way he's accessing this, like it's a toy to him, shaking his brevity, sickle. He points out that it's real, asking if Prota is a player, and Prota replies that it's a pretty stupid question to ask in this situation, telling the woman that she can leave. Now, telling her that this is her only chance, but Jang yells at the woman, making her stay put, threatening her for attacking, hitting his testicles with everything he's got, castrating that pervert. And he says that he told him he would scream while on the ground. And then he tells the woman that she can go, and he'll take care of that guy. And she just thanks him, running away. And Prota says that, now it's just the two of them. And so that psychopath starts screaming in pain, and Prota says they're going to start the real game now. And so, while laughing at that psychopath, Jang goes crazy, goblin still. And, seeing him standing strong, Rio feels he can trust in his survival. However, the angel shows disinterest in the way the battle has turned, since now only humans remain, telling him to screw off, saying he's going to kill him and his entire family. And Prota says that's a good thought. After all, it wouldn't be fun if he just beat him up. Then, Jang attacks him, asking why he's laughing, but Prota dodges each of his attacks with ease. Jang questions what's happening, since he's dodging everything, and Prota asks if he's still using the goblin swords, leaving him completely dumbfounded. Then, he runs the scythe through his hand, severing it from the rest of his arm. Then he starts to scream in pain, and Prota questions if it hurts, saying that it hasn't even begun yet, and cuts him even more, telling Jang not to be such a baby. And he begins to realize that he's going to die if he continues like this, saying that if he wants to get out of there alive, he needs to blind that guy first. Then, he activates the luminescence rune to try and blind Prota, but notices that something went wrong, questioning what happened and why it didn't work. But Prota tells him to try whatever he wants, because it's all useless, as light cannot pass through the night of death. And it's a good thing that he used the starting skill. Just as he mentioned beginning the real game, he says he could have cut off his hands and legs if he didn't know how to handle the light. So, he runs the scythe through his legs, tearing both of them off, and causing Zhang to fall to the ground. Then, he curses at the boy, calling him a damned devil, asking why he is doing this to him. And so, the protagonist asks if Jang wants to know the reason, stabbing the scythe into his leg, asking if he needs a reason to kill an insect, and says it's because he will cause him problems if he lets him live. Then, Jang calls the protagonist a psychopath while on the ground, even though he was about to do the same thing a moment ago, and the protagonist starts to become interested in how long weaklings being killed by goblins. So, she decides to stir things up even more, and a human looks terrified, questioning what she will do. Then, the angel vanishes with the bodies of the dead humans and reappears. We'll be able to maintain that attitude from now on. So, he continues to chop him up more and more, and thus, Jang begins to question why he is doing this to him and what he has against him. Person, saying that this isn't fair. After all, it hurts too much, and he wonders if he should just kill himself and end it all. He thinks that's his best option, but as he was about to bite his tongue, the Prota puts his scythe right under his chin, and he doesn't understand anything. Then Prota stops him from killing himself, asking if he really thought he would let him do it so easily, saying that he won't die until he begs for death, and continues to prick him more and more. So Jang thinks he needs to stop the pain somehow, begging Prota to kill him. But then Ryo asks what he's talking about, and Jang begs him to kill him, please. Then Prota asks if he's sure, and he asks again to be killed, and Prota says that he doesn't know why he's doing this, because, from his perspective, this is their first meeting. But still, he can't say that they don't know each other, telling Jang that they already found each other before, and so Jang is surprised that the boy knows his name, believing that the protagonist has some connection with that girl. But the protagonist says that's not the case, saying he doesn't know her. That girl. Then Jang asks what he is talking about, and the protagonist says that he kidnapped his younger brother and used him to force him to reveal what he knows. And Jang questions whether he did this, because he never did such a thing, and the protagonist says, of course, because it hasn't happened yet. It's something that he will do in the future, and for him, it's also something he has already done in the past. And if he hadn't done anything right then and there, he probably would have obtained the rune of inner thoughts, and he is surprised by this revelation, and the protagonist says that there is a rune hidden there somewhere, and he asks if Jang knows what with 50,000 more goblins. Then, the remaining humans prepare to attack all the monsters that have been sent. As they bathe the scene in blood, the angel and Ryu merely watch. Secret to obtaining it is, saying that he needs to listen to someone's voice of truth. Then he inquires about this voice of truth, and the protagonist says that he needed to hear someone speak the truth about, deep down in his heart, and if he hadn't intervened, he would have tortured that woman until she begged for release, all to obtain the rune of inner thoughts. He would then used it to commit various crimes. Jang is shocked by what he's hearing, and the protagonist states that he has already confirmed this through numerous attempts. He adds that even disregarding what he did, he's still a piece of garbage who deserves to die for the 12 crimes he recently committed. Then Jang agrees that he deserves it, begging him to just kill him. But the protagonist refuses, saying he won't do anything, and Jang questions what he means. So, he simply shoves the scythe into the middle of Jang's mouth, asking him why he thinks he can talk like that, and explains that he is waiting for him to die on his own. So, he continues to beg him to kill him quickly, because everything hurts too much. He reveals that he wanted the rune of inner thoughts, because he needed to hear the truth, deep down, wondering if asking about him is preventing her from speaking. And the protagonist says that he must be wondering why he isn't allowing her to speak, and it's because he wants to test the rune of his internal thoughts. Unfortunately for him, he already has the rune, and the protagonist asks if he doesn't remember begging him to kill him earlier. And when he did, the rune reacted, as he extracted the voice of truth from the target and fulfilled the secret condition. He discovered that rune, which is positioned in a predetermined location, and the acquired rune was engraved on his body, automatically. He says he just tested it, and it worked perfectly. And Jang says he got what he wanted, so he should kill him. But the protagonist says no, saying he can't, until they finally manage to kill the required number of goblins, and the angel comments that only half of them succeeded in completing the mission. And now that it's all over, the others who can die so easily, as it wouldn't be fair to his victims, and Sean continues cursing there, but he suffers until he dies right there. And the protagonist thinks there are no witnesses. But he thinks he'll solve things with the common skill he managed to learn by erasing the traces. And with that, everything there disappears. He says it's a very effective skill, as a good cleaning is always a good thing. And he says that, since he got what he wanted, his meeting with Mag and Onlock is bound to go very well. My friend, this was very satisfying, especially after knowing what he was going to do with this woman, and what he did with Proda in the past. My friends, it was PR Tour putting an end to that swindler elf, Lucas. That was very satisfying. And so, the next day, Proda appears in Bika, in front of his brother. He asks if he's going on a date, but Jay questions, why would it be a date? So Proda says that he doesn't usually wear such formal clothes, but, he says, it's an important occasion. He's going to meet a business partner, and so the kid is surprised that he got into this, because he spent it all on stocks the other day, and now he's in investments, wondering what will happen if he fails, and how bad it will make him look. The protagonist then realizes that he's more worried about the protagonist than the possibility of them going bankrupt, so he tells him that he will leave him aware of the details if everything goes according to plan, telling him not to worry too much, and asking if one trusts him. The boy confirms that he does trust him, asking who else he would trust if not him. Trust him if not for the protagonist. Then, the protagonist asks him to wait, because the other players are starting to act in a dangerous manner, and the boy says that he saw the news, and that they are using their abilities for evil, and mentions that he saw that other countries are having problems, with criminals escaping from prison because of their powers. And the protagonist agrees, because even those who failed will have to die. After all, those are the rules of the game. And upon seeing this, the players who were unable to complete the 100 kills are terrified, but she tries to reassure them, explaining that they are still alive and will be able to return. And now, she tells those who remained that she's going to finalize the scores before they leave. In this, we discover that the Black Harvester criminals are given the chance to become players if they meet the age requirement. And the protagonist says that the players are becoming stronger while the population is decreasing every month. So, it would be strange if things hadn't changed. And he says that a time will soon begin when ordinary people will be hunted and treated as slaves, and this will happen when the players are at their peak. Before the world becomes this way, he needs to become an unrivaled force, as well as increase the Dark Reaper's reputation in the process. He says that, in any case, the boy must be careful if he goes outside. So he says he understands, asking when he's going to tell him about his work, but the protagonist says it's a secret, and the boy gets all irritated, saying he's curious, and the protagonist says that he will tell him soon, so he should stop complaining and wait there to eat something. It's something expensive, not just instant noodles, and the boy says he understands, even though he doesn't like it very much, and the protagonist is saying that, as expected, Magonglok asked to meet there. Just as the home team has an advantage in football, the place Magonglok chose to eat is known to be a hotel belonging to the AN group. It's actually one of the Guanglok hotels. And, of course, this is confidential information, and he should be the only one aware of it, but he thinks that, at least, the fewer relatives who know, the better, and he needs to try and use this information to make himself more valuable in their eyes. And before that, he needs to improve his image and appear as naive as possible. Upon arriving, he tells the receptionist that he's there for the meeting, saying he was told to come to the front desk, and she asks if he's referring to the meeting with the president of the present Celestial Demon Consultation, and the protagonist confirms. She replies that the president will be there shortly, telling the protagonist he can wait in the seating area for now, and he acts all modest, saying, Black came in first place, followed by Stupid Idiots, and Heavenly Demon took third place. And after presenting the ranking of the best players, they receive a which is perfect, because now he needs to pretend to be anxious and look around as if everything is new to him. He really puts on an act, pretending to be a country bumpkin. Then, someone approaches. But the protagonist, I was shocked to see that it was the head of the sector. He asks if they hadn't already met earlier that day at the hotel, and the protagonist says yes, telling Shark that they saw each other while he was handing out rice cakes after moving, saying that he lived near Trarin. Then he confirms it, apologizing for his lack of courtesy back then. He notices that he doesn't even look to be 20 years old, but that child is his biggest shareholder, having invested 280 million won, and the protagonist realizes that he definitely suspects him, which is a natural reaction, since it's unbelievable that someone would have that much money at his age, and the protagonist says that it's okay, since it's not like they know each other. He never expected the president of the Heavenly Demon Consultations to live right in front of him. But the head of the sector asks him not to misunderstand, saying that he isn't the president. He apologizes for the belated introduction, saying that he is the head of sector and San Sunshin, and he says the president will arrive shortly. So, he mentions that they will go inside and wait, and the boy quickly agrees. Then, Sanchu asks him to wait inside for a moment, leaving and abandoning the protagonist alone. Then, He tells the president that he met the man face to face and that there's no way he could have invested that much on his own. Someone else must have sent him. So, the president must be careful. And the protagonist thinks that, as expected, the president sent Sanchu to analyze him, and there's no way someone as meticulous as Guion Glock could be accidentally late for such an important meeting. And so he arrives, introducing himself as the president of the Celestial Demon Consultations, extending his hand to the protagonist. Rio stands up, introducing himself as well. Quest completion reward. In this case, they earn 1,000 gold, which can be used to purchase items in the store. However, the store function will only become available at level 10, and R, also. And Ma asks him to sit down, saying that Sanchu will sit next to him, and the protagonist notices that he is including Sanchu in the meeting without consulting him beforehand, and it seems that he is trying to take the initiative, and Ma says that they are going to eat something before they talk about work, mentioning that she prepared Korean food. She hopes it is to his liking, and it truly is a feast that has been served. The protagonist comments that everything really looks good in luxury hotels like this, saying that it is delicious, and Ma replies that she is happy he liked it, but inwardly, she thinks that the head of the sector was right. He is too young to have invested 280 billion on his own, and even if he has the money, he doesn't seem to have the right mindset. He is definitely working for someone, and he wonders who sent him, wondering if it was his brothers or his uncles, but he still thinks that he will find out. Ma says that she was surprised the first time she saw him, as she never expected that her biggest shareholder would be so young, asking if she can ask his age, and the protagonist reveals that he is 20 years old, and Ma is even more surprised and tries to hide it, saying that it is good to meet someone of the same age. 10, because he's 29, which the protagonist considers a good age. Then, he asks how he amassed so much money at his age, wondering if he's from a wealthy family. And the protagonist realizes he's being too forward, but he replies that, no, he was just an ordinary student until recently. Then, Ma inquires about this recently, and the protagonist says that he must have seen the recent news, asking if he saw the article about the millionaire who won the lottery 4 times in a row. He confirms that he saw it, and the protagonist reveals that he is the one winner of 4 consecutive lotteries. Ma almost doesn't believe it, asking if that's true, if he's the lottery winner who was in the news a few days ago.